Ready to rock and roll. Hey now. Did I get you?
Hey now, it's your boy PSA Sitch here with a Monday stream with everyone's favorite trying to steal my opening line, Adam
Yep.
Crendon.
Stealing the thunder. That's
God,
exactly what I'm trying to do.
what a jerk.
Look, guys, I'm a little under the weather, so I have a bit of a sore throat. But we'll try to keep it energetic anyway. Look, I got my superior voice on. Woo!
There you go. Adam's gonna power through because
That's right.
I am
That's
autistic
that's
and I'm
exactly
incapable of having emotion in my voice.
Join the channel. Press the like button.
So I think first, do you want to watch this video first, or we're gonna talk about Trump first?
Let's talk about Trump first. We'll watch that in the second hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, big story. Trump is ordered to pay massive judgment, $355 million, though it ends up being $450 million, including interest.
Wow, them interest rates. Them interest rates are terrible now.
No, actually, it's like it said there's like a statutory 9% interest or something.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
pretty crazy. So, do you know about this case?
I know absolutely nothing. I know everyone's talking about it. I know I should know. I should definitely know. I'm going to have you tell me all about it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Fair enough. So essentially, this is kind of a weird case. Essentially, the state of New York, not an individual bank or insurance company, but the state of New York is sued Donald Trump because they said, hey, when you were asking for loans and when you were asking, for how your insurance should be rated for your properties and things of that nature, you would consistently and knowingly lie about the worth of your properties.
Wow.
Okay. And so they found in the original case through summary judgment that the fact claims were all supposedly true, that they were actually knowingly lying about the worth and value of these properties. And the defense from Trump's team was mostly seemed to be breaking down the two categories. Number one, that it didn't matter if they lied about the worth of the properties because the banks and the insurance companies didn't actually use those values for the determinations, at least in the final determination. And even so, it didn't matter because they end up paying all the money back anyway that they took out for loans. Right. And so no one was actually harmed by any of this. That's the claim.
This is a victimless crime, Sitch.
Right. Exactly. And then the second claim that they defense that they levied was that it wasn't their fault. It was, whoever was preparing these financial statements who was not associated with the Trump organization's fault, which that defense was thrown out in court recently in the latest ruling about really not being effective. And then in regards to, well, does it matter if they paid everything back? Now, the judge basically said that no, it doesn't. Even though you require damages for fraud, you still just break the law, and you still breaking the law is just a crime on its own.
Right. Okay. Lying. Yeah. Lying on some form.
Right. And so this number, this 355 to 450 million was calculated by sort of looking through like how much the court believed they would have owed or saved essentially by lying about the property values.
Okay, so they lie about the value of their property and they get a lower interest rate because of that. And this is hypothetically how much money they would save on the loans that they took out. So they would have ended up paying back more if they hadn't lied about the value of their collateral.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So they're trying to shoehorn some logic into there, right?
Right. So I don't know how you feel about this. I think it's kind of weird because I understand. Listen, I'm a big guy about can't break the law, can't break the rules. Okay, I'm always I always take the shopping cart and I always turn it back in.
What is that supposed to do? Who's that aimed at?
I'm just saying, no, that's just who I listen. I always use my turn signal. Okay, even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, there's no one around.
Oh
I'll stop at
man,
the red light and I'll wait.
I
I'll use
wasn't
my
ready
turn
to get beat
signal.
up on this stream, man. Look,
Okay,
I'm sick. Go
I
easy
know,
on me.
I know. I'm just saying. I care about rules and laws. I will follow rules and laws. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm a
okay.
lawful good paladin.
Well, Sitch, those are mostly guidelines, right?
There you go. Okay,
Look,
the
and
pirate's code, right?
if you veer a little bit out of the guidelines,
Mm-hmm.
you just get back in the guidelines.
No, no, no. If you veer outside the guidelines, you get hit. We're paying $355 million.
Well, in this case, yes. But look, I think this is obviously they're going. If this was anybody else, if this was Jeff Bezos, hell no. Are you kidding me? They're not gonna slap this on Jeff Bezos.
Well, yeah, okay. So where I was going with this is that I get like I'm fine with saying okay, you violated the law, even if it didn't hurt the banks or the insurance company. You violated the law, so you should have to pay a fine. I'm fine with that. But the amount of the fine, even though I understand how it's supposed to be calculated, does to me seem way excessive, considering none of the institutions that the Trump organization wronged seem to care or complain at all, or even really possibly even use the numbers effectively to make their judgments in their own business dealings.
Yeah, they get bailouts. I mean, they get giant bailouts from the government all the time. They don't care about this. They
Well,
don't care.
it just it does seem to me to be very, and I think you're right. It does seem to me this unequivocally is very political. Obviously the bringing of the case was very political. The DA in New York kind of ran on the concept of elect me and I will go after Donald Trump.
Right. Yeah, this is a keeping the campaign promise. How do you feel
Yeah,
about that?
I don't like that. I
Right.
don't like
Look,
that.
I'm
No.
running for office and I'll target the guy that you don't like.
Yeah, that's a very
What?
bad precedent. Yes. Um, but so, and the way that they usually do this is they'll say like, okay, especially like a lot of people in business who are very rich, it's probably not too difficult to find them doing something technically wrong or something
Right.
that's just
Yeah.
wrong. And the question is whether they go after them or not for it. So again, just if they want to hit Trump with some fine for this, I'd be fine. But this fine to me seems overly excessive in terms of what actually happened.
Right. So you think they should just slap him with a $50 fine and move on?
Or not $50, but I don't know, whatever, a couple million or whatever would be,
Couple million?
in the realm of this. Well, it's talking about like
This is more like
hundreds
he
of
didn't
millions
take
of dollars.
it's more like he didn't take the shopping cart back. This is in that realm. This is not in the $100 million realm or the $1 million realm.
I think it's no. I think when you're talking about an organization that's $1 billion company,
Right.
okay, and they're lying consistently, and you have evidence. So I'm assuming the evidence. I didn't look through the entire case, but assuming the evidence they have is accurate, that shows that the Trump organization intentionally lied about property values. Okay, which is what they're claiming, what the judge is saying the ruling shows, or the evidence shows for his ruling. Um,
Right. Well, it'd
that
be interesting to look at other businesses. This is probably just standard business practice.
Well, that was also some of Trump's defense was that this is standard business practice, but it shouldn't be. Obviously, companies shouldn't be knowingly lying about stuff, right?
It's difficult when you're valuing properties because you don't really know what a property value is worth until you sell the thing.
Yes,
So,
but the claim was that when they were giving their numbers to the people to create their numbers, they were intentionally hiding information from the adjusters and stuff.
oh, okay. So they were doing shady stuff.
That's the claim, right?
Okay.
And then the case. So
Yeah,
I'm saying,
like fine them for that.
right. So I'm saying, so I don't have a problem with them being fined millions of dollars for doing that action, but 300, $400 million seems overly excessive to me in terms of considering the companies that gave the loans didn't care themselves, essentially.
Yeah, they're after Trump. It's
Yeah.
long been rumored that Trump may not even be a billionaire. A billion is 1,000 million. So if he's not even a billionaire, this is going to take a big chunk out of his portfolio, right?
Well, so he said in some hearing related to this case that he had something like $400 million in just liquid assets, liquid
Right.
money, essentially
Yes.
floating
Yeah.
around. And so the thing that would be damaging or potentially damaging for Trump with this case is that the way it works in New York is that if he wants to appeal this, which obviously he is going to, you have to, I believe, within 30 days, you have to either give the state the full amount of the money
right?
that they can sit on and you'll get it back if you win your appeal, or you have to get a bond company to basically front the whole amount of the money, you know,
Right. And then
for 30 days.
Trump will run out on the bond company.
Right.
But
So
he'll probably get arrested for that though.
right. But that's the real what's the word? That's the real difficulty that would be thrust upon Trump in the coming month is that he's going to have to come up with the 300 400 million dollars to give the state of New York to sit on while this appeal is pending over the next 30 days.
This is so scuzzy, man. This is just so scuzzy.
Oh, and then on top of this, there's, he had that $80 million case or judgment against him from the woman claiming sexual assault. So,
Yeah, they're trying to clean out his bank account.
yes.
They want him homeless and under a bridge. This is cancel culture on steroids. They're going after an ex-president here.
Though
This is scary.
Mhm. Though this all might end up actually helping Donald Trump at the end of in a roundabout way, because not only is the question of will this help him win the election, but apparently it was reported by Reuters that Truth Social or Trump's stake in Truth Social is estimated to be possibly worth $4 billion.
Wow.
Which
Okay.
seems kind of unusual to me. I wouldn't think Truth Social would be worth so much, or his stake specifically worth that much, but okay. So, and that obviously, so it's there. The thought process is that he's going to have to sell property or sell some stake in Truth Social in order to basically give New York this amount of money for the bond. So
Is True Social a publicly traded company?
I don't believe so. No.
Donald
No,
Trump's
pretty
True
sure.
Social is poised to make its Wall Street debut after the Securities and Exchange Commission has finally created a controversial merger that was delayed for years as regulators conduct a thorough inquiry. This was from 3 days ago in Fortune magazine.
Oh, so maybe that's
So,
why his stake is worth so much, is because they're going public soon.
well, yeah, that's so what happens when a company goes public is, it's exactly like the federal government printing money. They're printing stock certificates and selling them to investors who think the company is undervalued or they just want a piece of the company. So once they do that, if they can sell $4 billion worth of stock certificates, then I don't know how much stock Trump will get. But if he gets half of that, he gets 2 billion in stock certificates and he can turn around and sell that stock on the open market. So
Right.
what they would do is they allocate however many shares they're going to allocate for whatever stock price they're opening at. And if they're estimating True Social is worth 4 billion, they'll divvy it up so there's enough shares to cover 4 billion at some price. And they will give, or they might actually give Donald Trump stock options to buy the stock at that price, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes stock options end up being worth more. So yeah, so that could net him quite a bit of money if True Social is going to be publicly traded. And now look, the stock market is on fire right now. This is actually probably a good time to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, according to this Fortune article, it says Trump owns roughly or is set to own roughly 79 million shares of the company,
Okay,
according
there you
to
go.
a new SEC filing. And the shares were trading for $49.50 on Friday, putting the value of the stake at roughly $4 billion.
So they've already gone public then.
Well, no, and it says that the only step left at this point is for shareholders to approve the deal, something that is largely seen as a formality.
Okay, so they've already got private investors to buy shares in the company.
I guess, yeah.
And they're
Right.
going to take that and let that stock that is already in private hands be publicly traded. So anybody will have access to it on whatever stock exchange they are
Right.
trading on.
And
Yeah.
you're going to see a big push from Elon Musk and, a lot of people everyone should go buy the Trump stock, right?
Maybe.
So, I'm sure you will. I'm sure you see
Maybe,
for people to buy
maybe
the Trump stock.
look. It
So.
seems like Trump. It seems like Trump has a way to get that money in his hands.
What's kind of funny, this might actually be the biggest windfall Trump has ever had, not from any of his
He,
property dealings, but is
he
this.
doesn't
Yeah.
he doesn't do any these buildings that have his name on it. He licensed his name. He doesn't even really own the building. It's a Trump
Hmm.
building. It has other owners and they pay him a royalty fee to put his name on the building. So
Right.
that's just like a monthly paycheck or a quarterly paycheck, yearly paycheck, however they have it set up.
Hmm.
So that's why a lot of people suspect that he's not really worth that much money. I mean, he's got to make a ton of money on The Apprentice, which I'm sure is in syndication somewhere. So, but I don't know if it's $500 million kind of money, right?
Oh, the
Like in
company's already public. It's a merger. Oh, okay.
oh, it's merging with someone else.
Yeah. Them. Oh, okay. It's a merger of Trump Media Technology with Digital World Acquisition Corp.
Okay, so another
There you go.
company has bought True Social out. If that's the case, and the other company, normally what other companies do when they buy another company out at a certain stock value is they come up with cash and they buy every single share up. This is exactly what happened with Twitter and Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk put in a bid for
Well,
$44 million. He had to come
they don't
up
have
with
to buy the
44.
whole. Don't they just have to buy majority stake in it?
No, if you're going to take a company private, you have to buy all the
Well,
stock.
no, if you're going to take it private. I don't, are they
Right.
taking it private? Are they just merging?
Oh, yeah, look, I think I'm not. I'm not exactly sure, but I do think. Yeah, no. The ticker. The once a company merges with another company, the ticker that they are operating under becomes void. So they do
Yes.
buy all the stock off of the market. So they come up with a enough cash to basically buy out all the stockholders.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. The Twitter thing was a different situation because Elon Musk was buying all the stock to take the company private. This is a
Right.
merger where they're basically another company is buying all the stock. I have had stocks that have been bought in mergers, and normally what they do is they offer a premium above whatever the trading value is, like a 20% premium. So if you're
Hmm.
holding the stock, whatever value it is, it'll jump up to 20% or whatever, whatever value they're trading at. Sometimes it'll even go higher because other people are there's like what do they call it? I can't remember the name of it, but it's a certain kind of trade where you buy the merger stock and you short the company who is acquiring the company.
Hmm.
I can't remember what it's called, but
I don't know.
yeah, there's a specific trade where you're buying something low and selling high. You're just
Right.
taking advantage of some inefficiency in the market. I've never
Yeah.
done that, but I have had companies have been bought out, and then you basically just get cash in your portfolio, and the
Hmm.
stock is gone.
Well, can't they also, they can either give you money for your stock or can't they give you new shares of whatever the company is that now exists?
Sometimes they do that. Yeah,
Okay. Well, there you go. So this is probably going to be a big windfall for Donald Trump, despite this massive financial judgment against him.
yeah. Look, he might skate by on this.
Hmm.
Starting True Social was a good idea for him, right?
There you go. I mean, it definitely seems like it. Yeah.
We'll be over there soon, right? Doing our
What if
truce.
Donald Trump says, listen, I'm not going to run for president anymore. I made $4 billion.
Well, it's too
Or True
late.
Social.
It's
I'm
too
out of
late.
here. I'm done. I'm throwing in the towel.
That would be super ironic.
Do I win my bet
No,
retroactively?
no. Look,
No.
the bet's already over.
I think I should win. I think I should win the bet if that happens.
No, that we would have to do another bet.
No, 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 no. I should just win, obviously.
Chances are Donald Trump is going to be president, so don't get your hopes up here.
I mean, yeah, listen. PC, thank you for $10. Says this is an S-PAC deal. It's an investment vehicle which is solely used to buy a private company. Sounds like the 4 billion valuation is based off of SPAC's current trading price. Well, there
So,
you go.
so is the company that's acquiring is that also a Donald Trump company? What was the
No,
ticker on it? SP
it
what?
was uh the company merging with it is
Yeah.
Digital World Acquisition Corp,
Okay.
DWAC,
EWAC. All right.
right? Which is one of those. It's a SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company.
Oh wow. Okay. Hmm.
So it's like one of those companies that exists purely to buy or merge something, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. These. Yeah. So thank you for the super chat. That is exactly right. I guess this is a common tactic. I think Vivek was actually talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
This SPAC.
Mm-hmm.
These companies are designed to get around the regulations of mergers and acquisitions. So if you have a merger and acquisition of a company, there's a lot of regulation that goes along with that. So people have developed these SPACs, and I think we talked about this, special purpose acquisition companies. A special purpose acquisition company is a publicly traded company created for the purpose of acquiring and merging with existing companies. Yeah.
This article says the point in this case is to bring it public. So I guess it wasn't public, and this SBAC is making it. They made the SBAC basically to make it public. True
Okay.
Social become public.
So this is a completely different situation. It's not a merger and acquisition. They're
Well, it is
basically,
technically a merger, right?
yes, but only for the purpose of making the company a publicly traded company without going through the regulatory bodies to do that. It's basically a workaround.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Interesting.
this company buys up companies and is like, I vouch for this company to be publicly traded.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've basically done all their homework to make the company publicly traded.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So look, it is going public.
Right.
This is a completely different situation. It's not merging with another company. It's going to be a publicly traded stock. Um, Trump is going to be able to sell his shares on the open market and net a bunch of cash for him. How many shares did you say Trump had? What is the ticker going to be?
I don't know what the
Do we
ticker is
know
going to be,
yet?
but he has 79 million shares.
79 million. Wow.
Yeah.
So, and what's the trading price?
Well, they said the
Does it say?
last. It says the shares were at 49.50.
Okay, so he's got bank.
Yeah, yeah, obviously.
All right.
Interesting. Okay, there you go. Gaming trucker JS for $10 says, but they didn't lie though. It was negotiated for the price of the property. I read the appraisals always differ. Also, wasn't the trial already decided before Trump team can even defend? So my understanding of the case was that, well, this is what they're claiming. Again, you have to go through the evidence to see if it. They're claiming that the court is claiming that they had evidence that in the original valuation of the property, so when they began the negotiation for the price of the property, that the estimates that the Trump team provided, that they were knowingly lying in the original estimations. That's what they're claiming. That's what the court is claiming, which
Right.
I think weakens their case because it's like, well, if the final price becomes closer to the amount, you know, does it matter so much? Like it matters because you're still lying, but does it matter to the tune of $400 million matter? Because it's not clear to me reading the judgment is like when the judge said that this 400 million amount or 355 million amount, he said that's based off of the amount that Trump would have saved. Is that if they had used the original estimation, or is that based on the end result? Because if that's based on the original estimation they didn't even use, this judgment would seem way off base if that was the case. So
Nobody's going to stop lying because of this judgment because they know it's targeted at Trump. It's 100% retribution lawsuit. So I
that's a
don't,
good point. Yeah.
yeah. Normally, fines are designed to prevent moral hazard, right? Keep people from doing it in the future.
Mm-hmm.
This is just such a strange situation. It's like, it's not going to stop that. It's going to stop political figures who know they can be targeted from doing it. Maybe that's a good thing, right?
You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So,
So he. It sounds like Trump easily has access to the money that he needs through this True
mhm.
Social deal. So he can
Yeah.
easily get that. He's got 4 billion in stock. So he sells a billion in stock and he's still got 3 billion left.
Mhm.
And look, all those shareholders, all the True Social shareholders are going to pay the fine.
Yep. We'll be interested. Yeah, and I'm assuming there wouldn't be some like weird, super New York Wall Street corrupt, like we're not going to let the company go merge and go public at the last second thing. But that would be an interesting turn of events. I don't know how much power, the whoever, the governor, whoever the Democrats in New York would have to nix such a deal at this point. But
Well, I'm
we
not on
shall
True
see.
Social, but the question that I have is how are the porn bots over there? Hey, what's going on, right?
hmm hmm
Has Trump eliminated the porn bots?
That's a
What's
good
going
question.
on, Elon?
Um, PC for 17 months says they're good. The SPACs, they're good for companies that aren't yet profitable. The merger documents are allowed to show forecast data. You can only show historical data in a traditional IPO. Oh, interesting. Okay, I was actually wondering about, I was actually wondering about that. What would be like the benefit of using an SPAC versus going IPO? So,
I I learned about the S packs from All In Podcast. They were talking about S packs on All In Podcast, and then I obviously you go to YouTube, right, and you learn all about S packs.
mhm.
But I had not remembered that journey, the S pack journey. But yes, it's basically like a regulatory workaround. So normally, when you're going public with your company, you go to like a bank, Goldman Sachs, and they're going to
Mhm.
organize how your company becomes publicly traded, minting the stock and selling it on the exchange. And these S packs are basically like companies that just they've streamlined that process and are competing against the banks for going public. And I think the workaround is your company merges with their company, right? And then they spin off whatever the merger is onto the stock exchange as if remember when they broke up AT&T back in the day and it became these different companies.
Mhm.
That's kind of what happens.
Hmm. Kid Truck 91 for 4 months. Thank you. Says, hey guys, I know you aren't a law stream, but could be interesting to cover the Colorado case. In the opening, even KBJ seemed to have a base take. Well, we'll talk about it once the ruling comes out. This is the should Trump be allowed on the Colorado ballot. I predicted that there'd be no fucking chance in hell that the Supreme Court would uphold that Donald Trump couldn't be on the ballot in Colorado.
Right.
And I said, which seemed to be kind of the logic that a lot of the court was ruling on, which would be number one, the Supreme Court's not going to rule. My prediction: the Supreme Court's not going to rule on whether Trump did an insurrection one way or the other, but that they're just going to have a big difficulty with the idea that a single state, that like the different states could sort of take people off the ballot in one in one state, and then they'll be on the ballot in the other state. That I think the Supreme Court's going to have a big problem with that. They're going to want some sort of uniformity, across all states in terms of who's going to be on the ballot, because they don't want one state to basically control, the election to that capacity, or one local party to control the capacity of the entire election going forward. So,
Yeah, it's going to be a free for all.
yeah.
They have basically a veto power over who even gets on the ballot then.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's the point of even having a primary?
Cameron 502 for $10 says, I'm not sure how this fraud ruling is going to stand when a civil fraud claim needs to show damages, and I can't find anyone claiming damages and all were paid. Yeah, it's weird because like right in the beginning of the judgment, or sorry, the ruling, it talks about how fraud has to have damages, And I'm
They
reading through this, and there isn't an explanation of what the damages even are.
I thought you just said they cooked up the damages as in they would have ended up paying more a higher interest rate on the loan.
No, no, but since they didn't, since the end result of the negotiation wasn't using the amount that was relied upon, it would take a lot of guesswork to sort of extrapolate to say like, oh, well, if they had valued their property correctly, this would be the end result of all the negotiations, right?
Right. So you're saying that they used other properties in the deal and that property wasn't even relevant?
No, no, no. I'm saying so like, okay, so say like Trump wants to take out a loan on some property, right?
Yeah.
So he says, okay, my property, it's worth $20 billion. And then the bank
Yes.
looks at it and they say, well, no, we think your property is worth $1 billion. And they kind of go back and forth and then they come up with some number at the end,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So the court, my understanding, I could be wrong, but my understanding is the court is saying the original like $20 billion, like that's where they're accusing of like the lying and stuff.
That wasn't even the value that they used?
I don't believe so. I
This
don't
is
believe that
so
is the final value.
ridiculous.
So
This is so ginned up.
that's why I'm saying this seems like kind of ridiculous to me. But
This judge is so partisan too.
well, and also because yeah, if you want to say like the damages would be whatever Trump should have paid or the interest rates they should have paid, it wouldn't be. It would potentially be going to the bank or the insurance company or whatever. It wouldn't be going to the state. But this fine is going to the state for violating the law, even though the potential people that would be damaged by it aren't actually suing Donald Trump.
Right.
So I don't know. The whole thing seems kind of silly to me, but seems kind of bullshitty to me. But
Right. Yeah.
okay.
What's the
What
Democrat response to this?
celebration generally. People cheering that, Donald Trump is finally, my guess would be, and this I've actually seen this because there's like a feeling for a lot of people on the left that Donald Trump is able to get away with anything. And so whenever they get him for anything, it's like, aha, finally, it's like his comeuppance, right? That's sort of like the feeling that
Yeah,
seems
but
like
then
it evokes
he
in people.
doesn't actually get got. And they're like, "Oh my God, look
Of course, that's the endless
again."
cycle. And obviously, and I don't know if any of this, I mean, they're appealing this. I don't know what would happen in appeals court. If any of this will end up being, upheld or thrown out or whatever.
Trump
So,
is going to sell. It sounds like Trump is just going to sell True Social stock, pay the fine,
mhm.
appeal it, and try to get the money back. Seems like that's the course of action here.
Yeah, I don't, right. But I mean, it's very possible, maybe even very likely that he's not there. He's going to fail an appeal too. So he's going to end up paying this big fine.
That's fine, but look, if the perception of it from the Democrats is going to be, "What? Oh my God,
Mhm.
I wanted him under a bridge in
Well,
poverty."
no, I mean that's a good point because yeah, because there a lot. I saw a lot of Democrats were doing cartwheels here because they were like, "Oh my God, Donald Trump is saying he has $400 million in like liquid assets. This is going to drain him dry," and they were all high fiving each other, right?
Yeah,
None of them talking about the potential Truth Social, him making $4 billion on the horizon. So
the narrative is going to switch to, "Oh my God, he's using campaign contributions. All the MAGA people are paying his fine for him." That's what
well,
they're going to say.
they can't say that for people buying Truth Social stock.
Well, look, the narrative doesn't necessarily have to be true.
True, but so also next month he's actually being hit with a criminal charge that I'm not sure I understand exactly in New York again. They're trying to hit him with some criminal charge relating to the paying off of Stormy Daniels, which uh, like all the articles I read, even the more left-wing ones were saying that this case seemed to be like total BS because it's like they're somehow trying to turn this federal campaign finance charge into like a criminal charge in New York in like a really bizarre way. So that's probably not going to go anywhere.
Trump is not welcome in New York City. I'm not
No, he
surprised he
needs to
moved to
get out. Yeah,
Florida.
he should
He's
leave.
like, Mar-a-Lago, here I come. He's a
Right, right.
fugitive of the law now.
Yeah, New York's really, I mean, it's very obvious everything in New York is very politically motivated. They're going after him with every possible thing they could try to. So,
Wow. He must be squeaky clean if they can't like find a body buried somewhere.
well, on this stuff, yeah, obviously. So,
You know that's what they're looking for.
Of course, of course.
Do you want to move on to Rachel Maddow's the Maddow blog?
Yeah, we can go in 1 second. TL1524 for 2 hours says, so can we admit it's a witch hunt now? Well, I've always said that I think the New York cases against them were from the beginning. I've always said those cases were the weakest and I think the most BS cases. So,
Sitch, call it a witch hunt.
well, no, because the problem is like, okay, so because in New York, the local New York office is doing some shady shit, that means that like every case everywhere in the rest of the country against Donald Trump that has nothing to do with the New York cases is a witch hunt too. That doesn't make any sense logically.
But this one's a witch hunt.
Yes, this case, I think, yeah, I think that as I said, I think all the New York cases against him seem to be pretty witch hunty to me. So
Right.
I agree with that.
The only one you think has any merit is the January 6th one.
No, I think the
No?
January 6th one would be very difficult. I think it has merit, but I think it'd be very difficult to prove if they have to
Right.
prove intent. I think the easiest one, I think the most, okay, I think the documents case, the federal documents case,
Well, they got them on recorded.
I think they have him basically dead to rights in that one. Not just the recording, but also there's strong evidence that there was intentional hiding things from the FBI
I can't
intentionally.
even show you this document. It's
Yeah,
top secret. Look, it says top secret right here on the top, and you're looking at it.
right. That and the obviously, even if it doesn't matter as much, the recording is going to hit like if there's a jury trial, the recording is going to hit everyone in a very specific way. So I think they have them pretty dead to rights in the documents case, and I think they have a very strong case with the alternate slash fake electors case in Georgia. Though obviously that case has been completely complicated by all the Fannie Willis nonsense with her, obviously, fucking a guy
Yeah.
and doing all that shady shit. So who knows what's going to happen in that Georgia case? That could all get pushed way down the road in terms of
Right.
you know manifesting after the election actually happens or not. So
Now
okay.
is there going to be like a 40? He's 45, right? And he's going to
Mhm.
be 47? Is that did they do like a 45 comma 47 next to his name if he wins again?
I guess they'll have to, yeah. I don't know what they did with the other guy who was the non-contiguous president. I
I
assume they
guess
did that.
that's what you'd have to look at, right?
Right.
Only two presidents with a comma.
There you go. Okay. So let's talk about this other. You want to talk about the Rachel
DeSantis?
Maddow, the DeSantis story?
Yeah, so what's going on here? I read this article.
So this is really obnoxious to me. So it's called the article is on the Rachel Maddow blog, or it's really a
Right.
Rachel Maddow website on MSNBC. And this
Steve Bannon.
Bannon, not to be confused,
Yeah.
Steve Bannon's left wing twin brother. Okay.
Yeah, that is funny.
It is funny. So the name of the article is "With His 2024 Effort Over, DeSantis Rethinks Florida's Book Ban." So this is
Right.
pretty obnoxious to me. The whole point of this article is that they're saying now that DeSantis can't win the presidency, he's gonna like go back on all these like the anti-woke laws he passed in Florida because they were all BS laws anyway, and they all caused all this destruction. They were all obviously only created by DeSantis so he could win the election. And now that he's out of the race, he's going to get rid of them all. That's how this article is framing the situation.
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. They're like,
Right.
"Oh, but he knows he's wrong, but he hasn't admitted fault yet."
Yeah. And so, like, it literally says in the article, it says, it turns out the Florida Republican isn't prepared to admit he was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Look at that.
Okay. He also isn't willing to say that his policies created adverse consequences, but DeSantis is apparently willing to reconsider the details of the whole book ban thing. So you might say, okay, what is this? What is this what is this thing that DeSantis is willing to admit he's wrong with? Oh my God, what is this crazy thing that happened, right?
Yeah.
So the only change that they're talking about is as you know, in Florida, they have a system in place. We talked about it a lot where parents are allowed to go to school districts and they're allowed to complain about if there's a book there that they think violates the policies of the school, which, seems to be related to like weird sex stuff for the most part. And then the school has to they have some period of time in which to sort of look over the book and make a determination about either A, whether the book should remain in the library, or B, whether the book should be remaining on the syllabus if it's being taught. So this new addendum they want to add is they want to say, hey, if you are complaining about a book in a school and you don't actually have a child in the school, if you've complained about 5 books already and we've found that your complaints are not don't have any merit, aren't valid, we're going to start charging you $100 every time you complain about a book.
Worth every penny.
Pending, then that only be pending if they find that your claim against the book is BS. If they actually decide that they're going to throw out the book you're talking about, you get your $100 back.
This is ridiculous.
So first of all, it's like,
I
okay,
think
this
you can
isn't
find
like some
20
massive,
parent. Yeah.
right? It's not like a big, like $100 for each book. It's like, okay,
You're going to
it's not
find
like some
parents that
massive
are
thing.
like, oh, yeah, let's all chip in. Let's do like 30 of them.
Right, right. Well, it's only if you don't have a, if the parent who's complaining or the person complaining doesn't have a child in the school anyway.
Oh, they can't do it then?
No, if they have a child in the school, that there's no charge.
Oh, okay. Look,
So it's only if they don't have a child in school. So it's
I
kind of like
guess I
it's
guess
like
there
for
are people that don't have kids in the school that are complaining, obviously.
yeah, because there's like these organizations, Moms Against
Yeah.
Whatever that
Moms
exist, and
against
they
liberty.
right, and they
Moms in
complain
favor of
about stuff.
liberty, rather.
Right, there you go. So, but so there's a couple things. First of all, like, okay, I don't really have a problem with this change if there's a bunch of people that are making a bunch of BS claims and they're adding, undue weight onto the system stress time that takes for people to sort of look through these books because the people are just kind of like, you know, suggesting everything in the sun, then yeah, they should say, okay, well, if you want to actually suggest something that's bullshit, you have to pay $100, right? I think that's totally fine. I don't have a problem with any of that,
This is
especially if they don't.
DeSantis's change, right?
This is a DeSantis's change, or Republicans and DeSantis is seemingly going to sign off on it. Okay,
It's a good idea.
yeah, it is a good idea. Number one. So this art, first of all, the article here is kind of super disgustingly dishonest because it's framing it like number one, the whole thing that now that DeSantis is out of the presidential election, he's like going back on his policies. This isn't going back on a policy. It's saying, hey, we passed something and we think it had an outcome that caused problems. So now we're going to amend the law to try to fix that, which is what you should want your legislation to do in the first place.
Yeah, they're taking care of the unintended consequence of everyone in America filing some complaint about. So they probably have left wingers going after the Bible. Take the Bible
Yeah,
out of the library.
right.
It's
I'm sure they have
disgusting.
I'm sure they have everyone on all stripes, trying to do this, and it's just becoming too onerous for a lot of these schools.
Yeah.
And this is a way to try to tap down on that. Now, I don't know if it would, because if you could get some big donors, $100 per book is a drop in the bucket. But that's another story. But then the second thing is, a lot of the left's complaints against the book bans and things of that nature was, oh, it have all these bad, unintended consequences where anyone could just complain to the school and the school would have to drop it, blah, 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 blah. That was like the most common complaint we'd hear. And it seems like this is trying to literally address the left's complaint about that to make it not, make that better, to make it so that doesn't happen. And instead of just saying, oh, well, we're glad that DeSantis is listening to us and taking our complaint in consideration and trying to change it. Instead, they try to say, oh, look, he's not willing to admit he's wrong, but he's going to slowly try to secretly reconsider the whole book banning thing. The idiot. Like, you don't get any points for actually listening to what the other side was doing or saying and trying to adjust the law. And this, to me, is like a crystal clear example of why everything becomes so tribal in politics.
Yeah. Look, you don't get any points for doing the right thing.
No, you need to incentivize people to, if you want someone to do something, you need to actually incentivize them to do what you want. Like if there's a disagreement, you need to incentivize, give them some way to incentivize. Like if they change their mind, agree with you, you're not going to turn around and penalize them, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I'm sure, taking place because of the Florida voters. Obviously, if there's some line item in the budget that's all this expense because of this bill, all this needless expense that was created because of this bill, they're trying to neutralize that. Like the states, they run their budgets like a business. They can't just spend money willy-nilly. So I think no matter how they do something to satiate the voters, their own local voters, the national news media is going to spin it as something ridiculous. Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
there is kind of that duality here. Like they are incentivized by the voters. That's why they're actually doing this. So they do have an incentive.
Mhm.
It's the mainstream media that doesn't have any incentive to spin it honestly. How do we fix that? That's the real problem.
I don't know. How do you fix that the mainstream media basically derives money from crafting tribal outrage for a specific team, right?
Yeah, that's the problem.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question because I don't think people are going to get fed up with that anytime soon. I mean,
Right.
they haven't got
Yeah.
fed up with it in my entire lifetime, so I don't see that changing.
Yeah. It's horrible. But maybe people will get fed up with it.
Maybe. I mean, now it's unclear to me whether alternative media existing has made the mainstream media become more polarized or less. It seems like it's because obviously become more polarized, but I don't know if that's just because of some other issue or because they now have to compete with alternative media, and so they have to they basically end up relying more and more on kind of a niche audience, in these sort of dirty tricks storytelling.
I think that's 100% it. I think the people desire partisan media, and since you have outlets like YouTube that come into play where independent content creators can satiate that desire in the
Mhm.
public, people turn to those independent content creators, and all of a sudden mainstream media has to compete with those independent content creators. So they become more partisan. Before, when it was, you had three news outlets, there wasn't
Mhm.
a lot of need to compete. I mean, obviously they would compete for breaking news stories over one another, but it wasn't
Right.
aimed at this partisan type desire people have. I don't. Is it a need? I'd like to think it's not a need.
I think it's a
I
need. We all have that kind of tribal, you need to root for your sports team, right?
Yeah, but that's the purpose of sports. Sports is a perfect example. No one's going to get. There's not going to be any downside of society rooting for independent local sports teams. When the lawmakers become sports teams, that's when you start getting into trouble.
Yeah, but I think first of all, I think the lawmakers have been sports teams for a long time. So
Yes, yeah.
I think they might have been a sports team from the beginning. So that's the problem is that you have a lot of people who don't sublimate their tribal desires through sports or something to that effect. They sublimate it through politics.
I do think that there was a time when people had a more healthy outlook on the Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal divide.
I
I
agree.
do I do think there was a time when they were like they respected one another, they understood. They had sort of the analogy that I'm always using is the offense defense analogy. They sort of understood that and talked about it openly. I'm not sure that is taking place now. It's more
Well,
about demonizing the other side.
I don't I don't think the tribalness or partisanship of the country. I don't. It's not like it was at one point and then it just gets lower and lower and lower. Like there are ebbs and flows of ultra division and then more unity. It seems like in our history, we kind of go through these pendulum
Yeah,
swinging periods.
the
Of,
seculum.
yeah, right. We kind of go there. You go. We kind of go back and forth between these two ideas. But because I mean, definitely in our past, we definitely had times of ultra knockdown, drag out, dirty, super dirty politics, the most cold-blooded, disgusting political attacks on other people, hundreds of years ago in our country's founding. But what has diminished in a more linear progression is that it seems like politicians kind of had this idea that they understood that to some extent their public appearances was a little like had kayfabe elements to them, and that when they would then go in Congress, they would kind of behind the scenes like drop a lot of the kayfabe and kind of try to negotiate something in a more backroom steel kind of way. And that element seems to have gone away now. And I think that's part of why nothing ever seems to ever get accomplished anymore in Congress.
More backroom deals.
Because there aren't any backroom deals.
I've seen this thing where right here I looked it up. This is Institute for Family Studies. Marriages between Democrats and Republicans are extremely rare. So they've been touting this thing that as a metric for polarization, political polarization, that people are now saying they would not date someone who is a Republican, or they would not date someone who is a liberal or a conservative. But I saw a video recently. I wish I had it so I could bring it up, but they were saying that if you look at actually the issues, it's kind of a perception thing that really, actually this was more along the lines of men and women. Men, they were saying are getting more conservative, and women are getting more liberal. But they were saying if you actually look at their positions, men and women are not that far apart, which I thought was interesting. Yeah.
If you ask them, are you more conservative, more liberal? They'll say, oh, men will say I'm more conservative, women will say I'm more liberal. And if you ask them about specific policies or issues, there actually isn't that much difference. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That's fascinating. Okay. So it's all like the public perception of what the parties represent.
Yes. And I guess that also includes a bunch of virtue signaling element to it, right?
Well, it makes sense because so much, I think that's entirely a result of wokeness. Because right now, like you have such a strong push from the left and the perception of the left, regardless of what policies are passed, in terms of like, we need to help, women and minorities and, fuck white men, right? Fuck straight white men. They can all, rot in hell because they've done enough. They've had enough in our history.
Oh,
and that's obviously that idea has sort of like bled out to the mainstream in all facets of life.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's interesting.
I was looking for the video. I'll see if I can find it.
JMac, our surrogate father, thanks so much, Daddy JMac, for the 50 gifted memberships.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much. Look at
that. It's great.
Thank you. And he said, JMac for $10 says, good morning, Vietnam. There you go.
That is the voice right there.
I've actually never seen that movie, I'll admit.
Good morning, YouTube.
I've never seen it. Is that a good movie?
I'm not sure I've seen it.
Oh my God. JMac, is that a good movie? Robin Williams, Good Morning Vietnam.
Of course. Everyone loves that movie.
Okay. Gene the Angry Penguin for $5 says it all started when the timeline, when there was no sequels to The Matrix, merged with this horrible, horrible timeline with 3 sequels. You know what? I believe that. I agree. The original Bear Stein universe, where it was just The Matrix 1 and that was it, everything was right in the world. And as soon as this horrible, awful, degenerate Bear Stein universe collided with ours and took over, that's where everything went to hell. So,
of course.
Okay. Do you want to watch the video, the Democrat ad, or do you want to watch Sketch's video first?
We can. Probably we'll do the other thing last.
Okay. So let me go bring up where is it?
I found it.
What are you looking for?
TLDR News Global. Is that a reputable source?
I don't know. What is this?
Why are Gen Z women so much more liberal than men? This is the video. I'll just post it and maybe we can look at it another time.
Okay. Oh. Okay, hold on. Okay. So this is kind of interesting. This is the Democrat who basically won Santos's seat.
Right. So it's a Republican seat that flipped to Democrats.
Well, I believe Tom Suozzi, I don't know how you say his name. I believe that Santos won the seat from a Democrat first.
Oh, okay.
And so now it's flipped back, essentially.
Because he would say anything to basically win the seat.
Right. So George Santos, who, very famously won the election by basically lying to everyone
Right.
about everything, right? You
He
know,
told
he's
everyone he was Jewish, and what he meant was Jew-ish,
yeah,
like kind of a Jew.
kind of Jewy. Yeah, I'm a little Jewy, right? Yeah,
What,
right.
what does that mean?
He's like, you know, you're like, oh, you're not Christian, you're Christianish, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, sure, sure. So it wasn't just that he supposedly, you know, he lied about a bunch of other things. But anyway, so he's out, and so they had a special election running for his seat, and this guy won. This Democrat Tom Suozzi won, and so I just
okay,
thought this was interesting. This was one of the campaign ads he ran about a month ago. So I want you guys to watch this and see if this is kind of what you notice is going on in this campaign ad.
let's do it.
The southern border is 2,000 miles away, but the migrant crisis has landed right in our own backyard. I'll work across the aisle to do what our leaders haven't: secure our border, close the routes used for illegal immigration, but open paths to citizenship for those willing to follow the rules, and pay a fee to help finance it all. In the past, I've worked with Republican Peter King on a compromise solution to the migrant problem. I'll work with anyone to get it done. Use common sense and find common ground. I'm Tom Suozzi, and I approve this message.
Nice.
Common ground.
I like this. Him close. You like him
Closing
closing the backyard
the
gate.
gate. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So this is very fascinating. So you have a Democrat who just won a special election, and he ran a pretty, you know, he ran a campaign ad that's just very anti-immigration, right? Now he throws in a little like, listen, we want to have a pathway for like legal immigration, but we gotta, you know, keep all the illegals out. And it's fascinating to me. I wonder if this is going to signal a very big shift that's already starting to occur in the Democrat Party to shift in favor of becoming strong on border control, just obviously so that they can win the next election.
It's pretty obvious why Sitch wants to watch this ad.
Well, no, I think, wait, why?
Because you called this. You totally
Oh,
called
I
this.
did
You were
call
like,
this,
look,
yeah,
the
that's
Democrats
true.
are going to flip on a dime. They're going to
Yep.
be completely border hawks now. They're going to be running ads basically saying, close the border, slam the gate closed.
Listen,
Look,
you're right. I did
yeah,
say this was going to
look,
happen. Yeah.
you nailed it. Look,
Yes.
I think it was I think we both came up with it on stream, but you might have said it first. But
Mhm,
yes,
mhm.
they are going to become extreme border hawks. Yeah. As soon as it starts affecting their constituency. And I mean, I got to give it to the Republicans, this whole busing immigrants to blue cities and affecting their
Very
stronghold
effective,
of
yes.
voters. Yeah, exactly. Look, a lot of these big blue cities, I mean, they can't lose, the Democratic Party can't lose those districts without losing the House. They can't win the Senate without winning those, because those are big blue strongholds for votes statewide.
Mhm.
Yeah, and also in the national presidential election. Look, this is bad news. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but you're right. Sort of like this could be the most genius political move in the last 10, 20 years was shipping people to the blue cities to make it if you have a problem and one political party is preventing you from solving the problem, make it their problem, right?
Yes.
And then
Yes.
suddenly you'll see like the switchover occur. So yeah, no, I mean I did call it. I think this will have so like the way that a lot of political pundits actually view things, whether their perception of reality is accurate or not, but their perception is they always look at like the last race to see what the candidate who just won did. And I think a
Yep.
lot of Democrat strategists are going to look at this and they're going to say, okay, special election coming up to 2024, coming up to the presidential election, Democrat took a Republican seat. You know, they ran strong on immigration. And that to
Yep.
me is going to be a very clear signal that that they're going to try to do this flip on immigration and really run hard on we're going to lock down the borders and we're going to shut down the borders and do all this stuff. And it's actually the Republicans who are the ones that are keeping it open for political reasons.
Yeah, do you see Democrats hitting Republicans with the abortion stick? I'm not really seeing a lot of that. It could be happening and I'm missing it, but we thought this election was going to be abortion, abortion, abortion. Everyone was going to be talking about abortion. The Republicans want to take away your right to choose, scaring Democrats to the polls. Everyone's talking about immigration. Sitch, what happened?
Well, if you recall, not only did we say abortion was to be a big issue, but I also said, listen, the election's a long way away.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen in between? And there's always things that crop up. And obviously, the immigration issue is now cropped up and become the dominant issue, that in the economy. And it's actually, that you're talking about abortion, there was a very interesting poll, though it was only with it's a very small sample size. So I'd be curious to see if this is replicated. But they had a poll where they took women who had voted for Donald Trump in the last election,
right?
And they asked him how they felt about abortion. And even though the majority of the women in this small poll said that they were against, and they were in swing states, they were against the abortion bans, and they were actually in favor of a woman having a greater right to choose, essentially.
Right.
Even though they felt that way, most of them still would prefer to vote for Donald Trump because of A, the border, and B, the economy.
Right.
And so that spells really bad news for Democrats, because obviously I think the abortion issue would be a good boon for them to run on, but the border stuff, I think, is just going to wipe all that out, essentially.
Yeah, people have priorities. They're like, look, I can play it safe in my bedroom life. I can't have a bunch of illegal immigrants living in my backyard, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The priorities have completely shifted. People prioritize safety over the
of course,
abortion issue.
And, as you've talked about, and I think this is going to be the difficulty or the delicacy, I guess, that the weird balance the Democrats are going to have to try to find here. And I think they're in trouble. Every day I really don't see how Peter Zahan's Trump can't win prediction could possibly become true. Because you've talked about how it's going to be very difficult for the Democrats to sort of flip on the border, because it's going to piss off all of the woke young progressives. Essentially, they're all going to call them racist. And the woke young progressives are already mad at the Democrats anyway for all the Israel stuff.
Yeah, we should listen. If we have time, we should listen to the David Pakman video, because it's like people are calling into David Pakman shows saying, look, you're in favor of bombing Gaza, unsubscribe, get lost.
Right.
We're going to see that in the election, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, right. And so,
and like you were saying, people look at what happened in the last election. Young voters were very essential for Biden's coalition in the last election. He loses those over the Israel Gaza stuff. Oh, it's murder.
Right. And so if the Democrats are going to they're going to piss off this important coalition. Now they're definitely a minority, but it's still an important, the Democrat coalition is a coalition of different minorities. And if they're the minority group is this young kind of progressive woke voter,
right?
If they have the double whammy of Israel, and now the Democrats are going to start to become stronger on the border, which they've been calling racist for the last 7 years. I mean, this is going to be very difficult, I think. And then on top of that, you already have, first of all, they don't like Biden anyway, because they see Biden as a neoliberal, basically Republican light. And then Republican has his terrible approval ratings anyway, and he's seen as old and enfeebled. It's just, I don't know. I just feel like unless something major happens, it's going to be so difficult for the Democrats to possibly win in 2024.
Yeah, I don't think young people are going to show up for Republicans, but it's hard for me to imagine they're going to show up and vote Democrat. So
yeah,
maybe
they're not going to switch.
Trump
they just won't show up.
Yeah, maybe Trump will scare them. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Yeah, well, part of Trump's strength is that since he always says crazy shit, it's like people grow numb to it. And so the whole, you have to be afraid of Donald Trump becoming the dictator. I think a lot of people, not everyone, but I think a lot of people will just become numb to that, regardless of the truth claim of it or not.
It'll be interesting to see what his position is on Gaza, because he's probably going to say, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix it. There's no reason those people need to die. There's no reason Israel can't win. There's no reason Gaza can't win. He's going to come out and just promise them the world. And he's going to have a complete advantage because he's that all the stuff he's going to say he's going to do is just not really possible or even plausible, but still people are going to buy it.
Yeah. No, he's going to say, listen, when I was president, we had peace in the Middle East. I brought the Abraham Accords. Okay.
Yep.
I had everyone working. I was very good friends with the Palestinians and
Yes.
the Jews. I made Jerusalem the capital. Right. This attack would have happened on my watch. And we're going to get the Jews and the Palestinians. We're going to sit them all down and we're going to make them hash out a deal. Everyone's going to win.
Everyone. Yeah. Everyone's going to be happy. It's going to be peace in the Middle East for time immemorial, in perpetuity. It's going to be amazing. You're going to get so tired of winning in the Middle East.
So we still have, some months before the election, but there's going to need to be some really big shift. In my opinion, there's going to need to be some really big shifts that occur, some really explosive things that happen in order for Biden to have a shot here. Because I don't think it looks very good for Biden right now.
Right.
So
will Trump pick up the Palestinian vote?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think it's possible?
No, I think they're so mad about the Jerusalem thing.
He's got like colonialist written all over his face.
I mean, Trump was like the most pro-Israel candidate we've had in 30 years or so. So
we did watch a podcast on this show where Trump was very pro-Palestinian. He talked to different leaders in the Palestinian Authority and really empathized with them. And he even says he thought it was Netanyahu that was standing in the way of peace, that the Palestinians really wanted a deal. But none of that is widely known.
Yeah.
That's not a mainstream narrative at all.
Yeah. And the thing was that even if that reporting was accurate, he appointed all these people that were like super pro-Israel hawks in all his cabinet positions and important positions anyway.
Yeah, but so accidentally. He didn't really like those people.
Right, but that's what ended up shaping the policy anyway in the Middle East.
Yep.
So
maybe he'll do better this time.
We'll see. Gaming Trucker JS for $10 says that wasn't a Republican seat. It was a Democrat seat. The only reason Santos won, I believe, that there was no incumbent from the Democrat side. Have to look at the history of that seat. Well, I knew it was a Democrat seat before, but I didn't know that he didn't run against
I'll be right back.
That's interesting if he didn't run against a Democrat. But that's why I said, even if it's not accurate, it's all about the perception. And I do think that the perception that like the kind of pollsters and the people going into 2024, because they're all looking for information. So okay, when people try to make these predictive decisions, that's actually their career. So like when a politician comes to someone, a pollster or someone to make kind of predictive decisions about what to base their campaign on, the guy wants to base it on, or the girl wants to base it on something tangible and physical, so that if their predictions turn out to be wrong, they can still say, hey, it's not my fault. I was basing this off of something physical, something tangible. And so there's kind of like a bias for data, or for easy to look at and discover data. And so even if it doesn't actually make sense for people to kind of look at, this guy winning Santos' seat as relevant information in terms of what the Democrats should do, I think they still will look at it as a model. I think a lot of Democrats, especially in more purple areas, will look at this as a model of sort of how they should sort of focus their campaign. And also it does totally mesh with, apparently there's all this reporting that Joe Biden is very pissed off about the immigration problem. And in the White House and in backroom talks, everyone in the White House is kind of pointing fingers at each other about who exactly is to blame for this kind of immigration crisis spiraling out of control. So it does seem to me pretty clearly that the Democrats are going to do this hard shift on immigration, try to take this, in a different direction to save their reputation.
It's not AOC's fault. She was like crying at the border. She was way ahead of this.
Oh, she was crying because people could get in so easily? Is that
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
She's crying. She's like, all of these immigrants coming to my district.
Now, whether Democrats will be effective at trying to throw, to change their image on immigration is another story. Sketch for $5 says, vote for Dr. Adam Manhattan, Knight Sitch for President 2024.
Yeah,
There you
we're
go.
gonna
Thank
watch
you.
your awesome video sketch, so
Yeah, Sketch did a great video.
it's pretty funny. Pretty funny.
Okay. Let's see. What other things to talk about? Well, we have did you want to watch the Pac-Man clip? Do you want to talk about Navalny?
Yeah, Navalny's in the thing, so we should talk about Navalny. The I have seen a bunch of people, a bunch of commentators basically saying that America is just as bad as Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, so the Navalny thing is really no big deal because this happens in America too, which seems completely ridiculous to me. Do you know any well, I guess maybe since people are going after Trump, that's the connection that they're making.
That's the connection people are going to say. They're going to say it's
Right.
just like them going after Trump, which, as I said, I think that the cases against him in New York are BS, but I still think it's kind of ridiculous to compare that, like, a DA in a state going after someone. I think that's through a judicial court system. To me, is ridiculous to compare that to a guy who's running for president who's been poisoned multiple times, who's had poison thrown in his face before, who was, taken to jail and then, either poisoned or left to die essentially, right, in jail just to prevent him from running against Vladimir Putin, who's been president, obviously for the last, X number of years and will continue to be president probably forever. So until he
So
dies.
so one for one would be if Joe Biden had acid thrown in Trump's face.
I mean, listen, if Trump had to survive multiple poison attacks
Yeah, exactly. It's
and
completely
then
different.
like he was like, if Trump was accused of a crime and then before, it was ever really adjudicated in the courts, he was sent off to like the northern tip of Alaska
Yeah.
to jail
Wow.
there in like an ice cage, and then he just died from hypothermia. Then I'd be like, okay, that's comparable to what's going on in Russia, right?
Yeah, yeah. We have a far better judicial system.
Yeah.
So we have some semblance. I mean, it's not perfect by any means, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
All of these cases that are being levied against Trump, obviously, that's there. We're showing some cracks in our judicial system, but nowhere near the level of Putin's Russia.
Of course, obviously. Yeah. Well, I say obviously. I would hope it should be obvious, but some people won't see it
Right.
that way. And it's kind of ironic because right before Navalny was killed, his wife is claiming that he was poisoned, and that's why they're not letting them see the body because then it would be able to be shown through forensic investigation that he was poisoned. But right before he died, Tucker Carlson basically came out and said it wasn't really that big a deal, essentially, that Putin is killing off people because every president in America has to kill people.
Yeah,
And then
but
this happens like the preceding day. So I don't know. It makes that comment look even more retarded.
yeah. So when Tucker Carlson was saying that, he wasn't saying it in the context of killing off political rivals. He was just saying people die in war, that kind of thing, right?
I don't. Maybe.
Well, presidents obviously order people to, engage in combat and stuff like that. So,
Sure,
I
but
mean,
I
you
don't.
can make that argument, but it's the
Mhm.
political killing off your political rivals. That's where the difference is.
Yeah, obviously, one would
Yeah.
hope so. Oh, but here's an interesting thought about this Navalny dying. Now, this is like, okay, I'm going to warn everyone. This is like wild, wild speculation. I don't know if I believe this, but I'm going to throw it out there because if it turns out to be true, you can all say I'm a genius. But if it doesn't turn out to be true, which it probably won't, okay, there's like a 99% chance this isn't going to happen. So if it doesn't turn out to be true, you can just forget, like ignore it. It won't matter, right? So I don't think this is going to happen unless it happens. Okay, that's my that's my asterisk. Okay.
Oh no, what is this?
Apparently, Biden and a lot of people in the West were telling Putin before they invaded Ukraine that if Navalny dies, it was going to like be a big red flag to cause a bunch of bad things to happen to Russia in terms of sanctions and things of that nature, right?
They were trying to protect Navalny?
Yes, sort of.
Wow.
They were saying it was a crime to put him in jail, and if he dies, we're gonna sanction the fuck out of you, blah 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 blah. Okay, there's all these like threats made.
Well, we already
Now,
have sanctioned the fuck out of him. So
well,
I don't.
okay, so none of that matters now because all those things that we were gonna do have already gone into effect since Putin has
Right.
invaded Ukraine, right?
Yeah, so he just said, I might as well kill Navalny. They've already done all that stuff.
Right. But here's my 1 in a million thought process here. Okay. If you're Putin and you're wondering if it's about time to wrap up the war in Ukraine, wouldn't you try to wrap up all your loose ends for things that would piss off the West before you end the war in Ukraine? Because
man,
then once
that's
you end
good.
the war in Ukraine, then you get like the blank slate forgiveness again, right? You kind
That's
of wipe the slate
good.
clean.
That's good. Sitch, you're thinking like a criminal politician.
Right. So I'm saying maybe he's like, listen, this war needs to come to conclusion soon. So let me just do all the things that kill off all the people I need to kill off that the West is going to get all mad about. And then they'll just forget about it because then I'll say, oh, we're going to end the war in Ukraine. And then the slate will be clean once more.
Yeah, exactly. You could be right. This could be, I mean, I don't want to call it a good omen because a guy died, right?
Right.
And Navalny, I don't know if you've seen any videos or documentaries on Navalny, but he seems to be his heart is in the right place.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy. He's definitely a good guy. Yeah. I'm not happy that he died. I'm just saying that possibly the 1 in a million shot here is that this is a potential sign that maybe, just maybe, Russia's looking to start wrapping up the conflict here.
Right. Yeah.
In the coming months, right? It's not going to be something that happens overnight, obviously. So,
you think Putin's picking a successor? You think that weighs in?
Well, I think he's only going to pick a successor if he's dying.
Yeah, sooner or later.
Illness, right?
I'm sure he's thinking, who's going to be my successor when I do die?
I'm sure he's always been. Well,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he's always been thinking of that.
Maybe it's like, I'm never going to die. I'm Putin.
Yeah, who knows?
It's me, Putin.
Right, yeah. I don't know, because there's been there's all those rumors for years that he had all these weird health problems. And, obviously we don't know whether that's true or not. So, who knows?
How old is this guy? How old is Putin? I mean, 71 years old. Wow. Just night and day between him and Biden.
Well, Biden's what, 80 something?
How
old is Biden?
I don't know.
Biden is 81.
Okay, so he's 10 years younger than Biden.
Yeah. I mean, those 10 years, the 70
to 80. That's a rough 10 years, yeah.
That is actually, I mean, that's pretty standard. The 70 to 80s, there's a huge change in health generally so far.
Yeah.
In medical, the way our medical system works now. So.
All right. Shall we move on to the video, or you want to watch?
Yeah, we can watch the video now.
Look, we'll watch the David Pakman video afterwards. Let's watch the fun video.
Yeah, let's watch the fun video.
Is it fun?
It's cool. It's good.
No. Okay, so look, we talked briefly about the Vowsh situation on Friday.
Yeah.
And look, I don't enjoy talking about this situation, obviously, because it's so horrible, right? Victimizing children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ugh.
The recap, if you missed it, was Vowsh accidentally showed his folder that had pornography on it, and it had cartoon lolly and horse porn. So here's the question: who's Batman and who's Superman?
I just hit the back button. So.
Okay, so did I.
But I got to tell you, Sitch, a little disappointed. Little tiny bit disappointed in some of the Sitch and Adam fan base.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. What for what?
Look, some people have accused me of making emotional arguments because I'm talking about how disgust plays into most people's feelings about pedophilia, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is, I'm not saying, look, we shouldn't, this should be a crime because it disgusts people. That would be an emotional argument, right?
Right.
I'm saying should be a crime because it hurts people. That's a logical argument, right? To lower the harm that could be caused to children. Now, I know a lot of people are like, look, I'm super logical, dude. Look, this isn't harming children. These are just drawings. Sitch and I clearly said that there is a social taboo that prevents a lot of these harmful interactions with children. And we said the drawings will erode that social taboo. And then once that social taboo is eroded, more of these harmful interactions are likely to take place. Does this seem like an emotional argument to you, Sitch? Is this an emotional argument?
No. So to be clear, though, we have slightly different positions. Because
We do,
my
you and
understanding
I?
is, yeah, because my understanding is that your position is that that cartoon lolly stuff should be illegal, right?
Yes.
Okay. My position is that it should remain being legal, but it should be still socially taboo. And I think
Right.
that the social taboo in place is important, and that's what prevents it from eroding sort of into bleeding into real world behaviors, essentially.
Right. Yes. You're saying there should be a social prohibition on it.
Right.
Look, I'm comfortable just banning it all. And I
Yeah, I know.
realize a lot of people have come in and they've said, well, this is a logistical nightmare. Like, who's going to decide? I understand that. I completely understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can figure it out. Don't we know haven't we figured out what pornography is? I mean, obviously,
Have we? I don't know
the cases in pornography in our judicial system have kind of come down to, I know it when I see it, right? But they do make a distinction between what is pornographic and what isn't.
Sure.
I think we can figure it out. As a society, I think we can figure it out. And obviously all of the pedos out there are going to like try to push it right up to the line. But we should start drawing out what those lines are. I think there's no issue with drawing those lines out. Yes.
Yeah, maybe. Because I think that people would argue that there's gray areas between, like, oh my God, are you a pedo because you watch Kill la Kill and they're supposed to be in high school, right?
Yes.
But I would say, like, obviously there's a huge difference between like that and lolly stuff, and it's undeniable that there's a huge difference between these two things, right?
Of course, yeah.
So I think I agree you could, you could create clear categorical distinctions here.
Right, yes.
Right.
Start drawing out some recognizable lines instead of just saying, oh, there's no lines here.
Right.
There's no lines at all. So, but I guess that this is kind of a good intro into the video, right?
Well, okay, but before you start the video, everything being said, and I agree with you, and I agree with the argument you're making is an argument that is a logical argument, 100%, right? But, and I don't think anyone should criticize or penalize you for this, you are very emotional about and disgusted emotionally about pedo stuff, which I don't really have a problem with. I think that makes sense.
Well,
and I think that's a healthy
attitude
to have, to not want that stuff in our society.
Yes, yeah. Look, this disgust emotion is what drives people away from engaging in this act.
Right.
It's the eroding of the disgust mechanism that is a potential problem in society.
Right.
But that's a completely logical result.
Yeah.
There are certain intuitions that are activated that keep us from doing horrible things. And that's good. We should encourage that.
We should.
Yeah, we shouldn't erode it. So here we go. You ready?
So Sitch made this video that you're about to watch.
Adam Friended's ideal superpower. A Sitch and Adam parody. I mean, is this parody?
So here's the question. Who's Batman and who's Superman?
I identify strongly with Dr. Manhattan.
That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing.
That's my dream. Just wave a hand over them. And the entire crowd, they all just splash all over everybody. I think it should be illegal. And I think the people who draw it and the people who look at it should all be in the
I disagree. I don't think a drawing
square.
should ever be considered illegal. I think that's down a bad pathway.
Vowsh should be by horses just so he can get his fantasy.
In retrospect, looking at when I looked at it, I think the vibe that I got was like short stack, thick kind of thing. You know what I mean? You'll have to entertain me for a moment on this presumed shared knowledge of how goblins get drawn in pornography.
10-year-old child is actually a 120-year-old goblin. Yeah. Great argument.
But I stand by it. My moral principles are rock solid. My feet are firmly planted in the ground. You cannot move me from my position.
Everyone sees through that shit, okay? Everyone sees right through it. You're not fooling anyone. It's stupid for you to even go that route.
Yes, but then I wouldn't have that powerful stallion energy using it. There you go. None of this is a secret. To be clear, many jokes have been made.
He's so good.
There you go. You should get Mr. Handed.
I am tired of Earth. These people.
So good.
Thank you, Stug. That was great.
That's so good. That's so good. I knew it was coming too. I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is perfect. So I just want to back up here. Hold on a second. Let me turn the volume down. So in here, for those of you just listening, he's got clips from Watchmen. So, but he's got the clips of the people attacking Dr. Manhattan, and he's got over the different characters. He's got like minor attracted person.
Right. Or
lolicon.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So and then Dr. Manhattan he does his, where the people blow up. Yeah. Which is great. And then he's got the scene where it's in Vietnam and she's 1,200 years old. Ethical consumption. All the different stupid arguments. Minor coded. Right. And Dr. Adam Manhattan just waves a hand over them.
There you go.
Dealing with all these arguments. But then Vowsh is at the end making his argument, and there's a little back and forth. But obviously, Vowsh is immediately disbanded with. So this is amazing.
This is great sketch.
Yeah.
We should put a link to this in the chat and in the description of the video.
Yes, let's do that.
But so it's kind of perfect that Vaush's avatar has like the sweat on it naturally.
Oh, I had wondered if he added that.
No, that's just naturally on his avatar. So it makes him look so nervous already when he's talking about this stuff.
He's been sweating it. So I haven't watched his response. He did an 1 and 40-minute video. Yes, responding to all of his weird pedophilic clips out there. Which if you have to do an 1 and 40-minute response video to all your weird pedophilic clips, I mean, something's
not
going
good
on there. Yeah. Something strange is happening here. So I don't know. Did you watch it?
I only watched like 10 minutes of it. I didn't time to watch the whole thing.
Okay.
So I didn't get to the meat of it. It was just him sort of saying, "Oh, these are all old allegations that I already slapped down, blah, 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 blah." So I don't know what his excuses are. But
yes,
we could talk about, it's kind of funny. So a couple of people have been defending Vaush in this whole sort of situation. And one of them was Keffels. And when Keffel started defending Vaush, it was interesting. So like, you guys probably might remember this, came out a year or two ago that Keffels was doing weird stuff where Keffels was giving people, or was like somehow facilitating or working with people that was facilitating the ability for people to get hormones through non-legal channels. They get like
I remember that.
Hormones.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was the whole thing with Keffels having something called like the Catboy Discord Ranch, which people were accusing Keffels of grooming, minors for, and things of that nature. And so Keffels kind of defending Vowsh, like created all this stuff comes back up again. And then larger, more mainstream audiences like Keemstar and some other places start finding out all this weird shit that Keffels has been involved in. And Ethan Klein starts talking about this. And now Keffels has been like sort of completely dragged through the mud as well,
Right.
in regards to this. And so
Keffels is up on Lolly Hill defending
Vowsh.
Yes.
Yeah. But apparently she's tired of it, and now she's changed her mind. Someone posted this is from Discord. She says, "I've changed my position on everything regarding Vowsh."
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then the person that they're talking to says, "This is the correct take. I'm very sorry you're going through all this bullshit again." And Keffels responds saying, "It's his fault, Vowsh. He's so fucking careless because he didn't consider how many communities are close to him. He hurt me and a lot of people by literally being a fucking weirdo. Go watch porn on your phone, retard. Jerking off at your work computer? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Fuck Vowsh. He deserves far more criticism for all of this. I don't think he's a pedo, but he is so goddamn reckless. I am not sleeping. I have had panic attacks over this. Defending him has resulted in all the 2022 Kiwi Farms misinfo resurfacing. And because of Vowsh, I just burned the last bridge I had to a mainstream creator." So
this is what happens when you start fighting on Lollipop Hill, guys.
Right. I like that, Lollipop Hill. So this reaction is fucking hilarious to me in a lot of ways. First of all, before we even get to like the meat of it, it's hilarious that Keffel's view of it isn't like, oh, Vowsh basically getting his reputation destroyed is bad because it affects me, right?
Right, yeah, the selfishness.
Like it makes me look bad.
The selfishness is off the charts.
I know, it's so hilarious. And it's like, oh, I had to burn a bridge with like a mainstream creator. That's the big problem, right? It's like, okay, I guess, like, sure, okay.
Is it Ethan? Is that the creator
I don't know.
Been burned
Maybe
with?
it might have been Ethan. Yeah, it might.
I
have
think
been
so.
Ethan.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Ethan had pretty strong words for Keffels. I guess Keffels was all up in his DMs. And I guess he responded.
Ethan had defended Keffels during the Kiwi Farm stuff, I believe. So that's
right. But I liked Ethan's response. Ethan's response was, "Look, you were on my show one time. Like,
right.
I don't owe you anything. And look, I'm not gonna defend a pedo just because they were on my show one time. What are you, retarded? Like, what's going on here?"
Well, it's like no one forced Keffels to defend Vowsh. Like Keffels could have just said, "Listen, I don't defend any of this stuff. I'm not gonna murder Vowsh publicly, but I don't defend any of this stuff, and I'm not gonna talk about like Keffels didn't have to insert herself into the conversation, right?
Right. Yeah.
At all.
This argument is infuriating to me. This argument basically boils down to, how dare you get caught?
Well, okay. And that's the more important thing about this. And so besides Keffel's like selfishness and ego, like the fact that's not even like, oh, it's bad that you were looking at that. It's like, no, how dare you get caught doing this fucking horrible thing?
Yes.
That's the real problem, is that you got caught doing it. Oh my God.
That's so awful. This makes her look a million times worse.
Doesn't it?
Yes. It makes it look like she's like has no problem with this kind of behavior. Yeah.
Or that even if it was a behavior that she didn't like, she wouldn't care as long as they didn't get caught and thus hurting her own reputation.
Right. Yeah.
It's just so funny. It's so funny. She's like, I don't care if you do this thing, just do it on your phone so you didn't get caught. Oh my God. How dare you just save it on your work computer?
Is Vowsh's audience going to be 99% pedophiles now that this has happened? I mean, obviously there's a giant outflux of subscribers from his channel. I think people are worried that if they are subscribed to Vowsh, people are going to suspect them of being pro lolicon or pro pedophilia.
I don't know. I think it might be a little too early for me to think about how, like, is this going to be the thing that like forever tars him, or will this go away in a month and people will just like oh, Vowsh likes he's a pedo, but then like he still has a large audience and no one cares. I don't
No, but
I don't know what direction the world is going to go in.
we've talked in this situation about the black pill.
Yeah.
If Vowsh ends up with 300,000 subscribers that are the 300,000 pedophiles on the internet, like, oh my God, that's horrendous.
No, right. But I'm saying like if this goes in the direction of no one caring, like not no one, if this goes in the direction of the leftist socialist community, the leftists not caring in a month from now, I don't know if it's going to have any substantial impact on Vowsh. Anyway, like
Look,
it might limit his growth, but he's still going to still exist in the space doing his Vowsh shit.
yeah, but my argument is they not only did they not care, they're pro this stuff. They're literally the pedos.
No, right. You're saying is it
every
just
single pedo?
be...
Yeah, look, obviously, Mr. Girl had every single pedophile on the internet watching his content.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Yes. Vowsh is kind of drifting in that same direction here. Like a lot of people who had plausible deniability, who are very much anti any of this stuff, the deniability is vanished. So they're like, look, run for the exits. And you can see this in his subscriber count. He's like losing 2,000 subscribers a day.
Yeah, actually. So, okay. So like, let's imagine there's like a Venn diagram. So like with Mr. Girl, there's like the Venn diagram of like pedos who watch him because of his pedo stuff. And then like the people that watch him anyway that aren't pedos. Right. And as he gets more and more as a content creator, whether it be Mr. Girl or Vowsh, gets more and more down the rabbit hole of the CP conversation or the reputation for that. You're saying that the Venn diagram selection of people that are not pedos that watch them is going to shrink, and the Venn diagram of the people that are actual pedos is going to expand, right?
Correct. Yes.
Right. And so the question is like, when do you get to that tipping point where it's like all just the pedos?
Yeah, where it's all concentrated pedos. Exactly.
Right.
Or just they're open about it in Vowsh's community. They openly discuss it.
Yeah.
They openly advocate for it. Vowsh is doing videos trying to establish pedophilia as a sexual orientation. Like they're all, woe is me, I'm discriminated against.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I would imagine what I'm saying is I think since I don't think that the socialist woke leftist community, I don't know how much they care about this stuff. Anyway, I mean, it's already the most degenerate community around, right? And so you're like, well, so we're like, is this like new degeneracy going to like change their mind about someone? I'm like, probably not that much.
You're saying they're literally apathetic about children being sexually assaulted. Well, that's crazy.
Yes, that's what
that's insane.
Of course. Well, I mean, listen, that's where they are right now. Like
this is
the real black pill about the Vowsh situation. If I think he's only getting the flack he's getting because he has made a lot of enemies in the leftist community already. Okay. If this was a beloved or a more beloved leftist content creator, like if this was Philosophy Tube or ContraPoints or even Hassan, okay, that like the exact same situation happened where they like there's like a flash of their porn folder and it was the same porn.
Look, I hate
I don't
Hassan,
think
but
that many people in their audience would care. And I don't think that many people in the leftist audience would care. I think the majority of this, the black pill that I'm saying here is I think the majority of the leftists that do care, they don't actually care. They're just doing it because they didn't like Vowsh anyway. That's my guess.
Right. This is not even if you like Vowsh because he politically advocates for the stuff that you like, this is not a good way to get the stuff that you want, the policies that you're in favor of enacted into law.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, this is a terrible.
Well,
look, he met with that congressman.
Right.
Can you this is just.
Well, obviously that's nothing ever like that's going to happen again. Right.
Right. Yeah. Look, the MSNBC show. No. Impossible.
Well, okay. So that's a good point. But if there was any potential for Vowsh to become more mainstream, I think that is gone completely because of this.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. But beyond that, I'm not sure it's going to affect him that much. Sadly, it's not going to affect him that much. So
I mean, his views are way down, and his subscribers are way down.
they're going down. They're definitely going down.
He's lost 12K in the last 30 days. I looked it up.
Right, but out of what? Out of 450,000?
Yeah, look, this is the thing. People create YouTube accounts and abandon YouTube all the time. Subscribers are not a metric. I know plenty of people that have 300, 400,000 subscribers and they don't get the kind of engagement we get. We have 50,000 subscribers and we blow their metrics away. So you got people like Peter Coffin. He can barely crack 10K a video. Right. So like a lot of people are watching now. His views are actually down. I'm surprised they're not up because this is such a controversy, right? New people are looking in. Who's this pedo? Let's check it out. What's going on? What's going on here, right? Look, they should be that way. I'm surprised he's down 6.5% over the last 30 days.
Right.
But once the dust settles here, once everybody's like, oh yeah, wasn't it funny when that guy tried to defend himself? It's so obvious. Like he's digging the hole deeper, right? Once the dust settles, you don't know if he's going to have that channel with 300,000 subscribers that gets 9,000 views a video.
Right.
Look at he just even in his back and forth with Destiny, even though Destiny tried to build a bridge with him because they met that Democratic congressman together and all that stuff. None of that went anywhere. Vowsh is such a backstabber. I can't imagine him being able to build a sustainable relationship with anyone. And now, like, who's going to put up with someone who is a literally a backstabber and has this giant black mark on their history?
Right.
Come on. It's just like, look, none of us have a crystal ball. None of us knows. This could be just wishful thinking, and there are more more pedophiles on the internet than any of us think is possible. It's just like, and Vowsh is actually going to go up because he's going to corner the pedophile vote. But. But I like to think the world is not just a terrible place. So we'll see how this shakes out.
Okay. Well, speaking of disgusting and degenerate things regarding this space, JMac, our surrogate father for $20 says, speaking about disgust, did you guys catch the huge poop play thread spawned by eudaimonia? I never had, quote, explaining why handling feces is bad on my Twitter bingo card this week, yet here we are. So I hadn't seen that until you talked about it, and I was looking up just now. So apparently eudaimonia, who we talked to before, he posted something where he said, this is not a parody account, and it was a post of him saying, hey, don't eat poop, and the left is saying, disgust response much? And apparently there was some people that were were mad at eudaimonia for telling people not to eat poop.
Yeah.
It kind of spawned a whole series of tweets, including one where JMac, he actually screen capped JMac saying, I had someone ask for a source when I told them that being accepting of poop play is not good for society. And the person's response was, I assume by your mockery of the idea that no, you do not have a source. Could you imagine, like,
what an idiot?
Like guys, you shouldn't play with poop. Do you have a source for that claim? No. You know what? No, I don't. You should if you need a source for that claim, you should just eat it all. Okay,
you should
just
play
eat it all to your heart's content. Okay,
jump right in.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh my God. So yeah, no. Listen, internet's a gross place sometimes.
A lot of these social constructionists, they don't buy into any of the evolutionary stuff, so they're like, playing with poop, that's a social construction.
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah, people didn't evolve to be disgusted by that for a very good reason.
Having babies, that's a social construction.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's why
Mithram
all
6.
animals do it.
Yeah, exactly. Mithram 6 for 200 Kazarks. Thank you. Says, can't the same argument be made about violent video games, though? I personally think that laws are disgusting filth and people should absolutely be ostracized for it, but it's a very slippery slope you'd be on. I was just saying, like, in terms of legality, could you not make the argument that violent video games also would fall into the same thing? I mean, you could make the same argument. Um, I think the only, not the only, but the substantive difference is just experience, I guess, because we have violent video games have been around for so long in society, and it doesn't seem to have had any impact on increasing violent crimes. So I think that'd be the
Yeah.
strongest rebuttal to the comparison. But I know that's not like a good that's not a good like rebuttal in terms of just thinking about it in terms of just the issue, right?
Yeah, and I feel like people who are making that argument are making excuses. I do. I honestly do. I'm super sus of that argument.
Mm-hmm. Um. Well,
In violent video games, you are separating, like you're gamifying the situation. If a violent video game
mm-hmm.
was closer to real life, I think it would be less popular. Like, let's say you had a game where you ran around and stabbed someone with a knife, and there was actually people that were like real people. Okay. They've got cadavers or whatever, and you go around and you stab them and blood squirts onto you and stuff like that.
You mean it's not a video game? You mean like you're just doing this?
No, it is a game, but it's closer to the real situation, the real experience, the real, like a lot of people, they might like violent video games, but if you took them to like a slaughterhouse,
They're not
it would
gonna
be a completely different experience for them, right? So I do feel like on violent video games, I think they're stripping out the things that are physically disgusting to make it more like sports, right? But when you have this lolicon situation, it's completely the opposite. They're not stripping out the disgusting thing that disgusts most people. They're including it because that's the thing that stimulates the people who are participating in this. So it's completely reversed.
So I think there's a core in your argument that I agree with, but I don't think you're expressing it properly.
Well, yeah, look, help me make the argument more clear. Because I do people don't necessarily understand this argument.
Right. Because like in terms of like the violence being stripped away, because there are video games and like this has always been sort of I mean, it's kind of gone away now, but like at first, as graphics became better and better, people would be more and more afraid of video game violence translating into real world violence. I remember when like Mortal Kombat 1 first came out and they're like, oh my God, they have like pixelated blood effects and, you know, it was so violent, right? And then now it's like, you know, you have in Mortal Kombat, you have like the X-ray attack where when you hit someone, it like shows their bones breaking through an X-ray and all this shit. And like, so there's definitely like a lot of violent video games where it's like very ultra graphic.
But it's still visual. You're still separating. You have your fingers on a controller. You're not actually holding a weapon.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So I think the core that I kind of agree with is that it's still a little different because when you're like playing a violent video game, there's like to me, I think there's a difference between you're kind of doing an objective and then there's like violence in it, and you might be like, oh, the violence is cool. But usually you're trying to accomplish whatever the objective is like the primary thing. And the gore is like a visual add-on to the goal, so to speak. Okay.
Right.
So like when you're playing Mortal Kombat, the goal is to beat your opponent. When you're playing God of War, the goal is to, you know, kill the monster or whatever. And like the visual gore is sort of like a secondary thing on top of it, like a visual aesthetic on top of it. It's not the goal is to sort of like the primary thing is to accomplish a goal, whether it be to win in a team activity or just progress in a story or whatever. Where when you're sort of jerking it to, you know, pornography, it's very different. There's not like a goal outside of, your own sexual pleasure to the image you're looking at, right?
Yeah,
So it's a
that's a distinction that I was making.
right. That's the distinction you're trying to make. So it's like it's a more direct one-to-one possible action relating to real life situation, sort of what you're saying.
Right.
So
And
I agree with.
there's another one too also that
Okay,
I'll
what's
mention
that?
briefly. So in the violence aspect of it, we do distinguish violence from, people who deserve it, as in self-defense, that kind of thing, and people who an offensive violence where you're actually the one provoking and being the criminal. Now you
Sure.
can have that situation in video games where you're, the criminal element. But I
Right.
think most people want to play as the defensive element, or they think of it that way. So, but with the sex stuff, I mean, you're always, and especially in the lolly situation, I mean, you're always harming innocent people. Where in the violent video game, you can perceive of the people as not innocent people.
Right. And while yeah, there are games, GTA obviously a famous example, but like while there are games where you kill a lot of innocent people, I think that I would imagine if you were to do a statistical calculation, the majority of games that use violence, it's you are perceiving yourself as the good guy and the people are bad guys that you're using violence against on
Yeah.
average. I would be interested, and this is something that we're gonna have to deal with because I would think that as graphics improve and technology improves, so that in the future, whenever that may be, where we're all playing our sort of augmented reality, virtual reality games that have hyper realistic graphics, I would be curious if people playing extremely violent games in that context has a completely different effect on you looking at like a flat screen holding a controller playing it.
Right.
Because the experience, like, I think as the experience comes closer and closer to reality, I do think that we'll reach a point where it will have a negative psychological effect on the player in terms of violence in video games. I don't
Yeah, and
think we're there yet, but I think we can get there in our
I've
lifetime.
seen this in different psychology books too, where they tell parents to be aware of the type of violent video games your kid is playing. Like if your kid is playing some video game where he's, the Allied forces going up against the Nazis to save the Jewish people, that's very different than if he is the Nazi, in the concentration camp gassing all of the Jews, right? That's a completely different, like if your kid is playing that video game, maybe you should worry.
Sure. Well, yeah, depending on how, there's always we type like when you're in middle school, there's like this weird destructive rebellious urge that seems to crop up in all young boys.
Sure.
That leads like the really like gross things, gory things that are taboo, they're not supposed to do. But I think if they like really like, so if someone played that game and was like, oh, I'm killing Jews or whatever, like, okay, like there are a lot of like old Newgrounds games and things that are like kind of fucked up like that. But if they like really get into it, that's when I think it's kind of like a red flag. You're like, okay, you're kind of like really into this thing. But I do wonder if as our technology increases, like if even if you're playing a game where you're like the Allied forces fighting Nazis, right? If you're playing this like VR game with graphics that are like almost indistinguishable from real life, and you're running around like bayoneting Nazis and like spilling their guts and everything, like I would imagine that would have a profound negative psychological effect on children playing these games.
Yeah, look, if you drop a kid in a slaughterhouse and you're like, look, help me slaughter the animals. Here's the nail gun, right?
Right.
That's going to have an effect.
Yeah.
They're going to be completely desensitized to that kind of violence. I mean, they say generally violent criminals and serial killers, they begin with animals because they just have a fascination for gore.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Did you see the documentary on that trans girl that was killed by the two, I think they were high school kids. I think they were like 15 and 16.
The girl stabbed a bunch of times?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a documentary on her, no.
Yeah, the kids were totally into gore. The girl in particular was totally into gore. Like she had gone onto the dark web and was watching all these snuff films and stuff like that and sharing them with this other guy that was, I mean, I don't have the stomach to watch that kind of stuff. I can't imagine being the type of person that would seek it out.
So do they think they just choose her at random and they're just into like wanted to killing someone in real life because they watch all these videos or something?
They wanted to kill somebody, yeah. And they targeted they had a few different people that had kind of on a list, but she was the one that presented the best opportunity. So
it had nothing to do, because I know a lot of people are saying that they thought that she was targeted for being trans.
Well, it was a bit targeted because she was
okay.
trans. Yeah, they did call her
Okay.
like a freak and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And,
Okay.
yeah.
So that had some involvement.
Yeah,
motivation.
definitely.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know about that.
I'll send you the documentary. It's on YouTube if you guys want to search for it. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But there are people like that they're these fucked up people, man. And I'm telling you, you just got to get them off the street. One of the naive things I think about progressives is they think anyone can be rehabilitated. I mean, look, if someone does, there's different people have different kind of attitudes towards life, and I don't think you can change someone's attitude. Like, you need a brain transplant to change someone's attitude.
I don't know. I think attitude is the wrong word. I think most people's attitudes on life can change if something happened to them that facilitates that change. Maybe there's certain, I think there's outlooks. I think people are, what's the word I'm looking for? People are not predetermined, but like people are born with a sort of a prevalence to have a specific outlook and a specific personality type. And it can change, but it's very difficult to change. And I think that is kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah,
and
look,
if you have like a specific personality type or an outlook that you kind of have a prevalence towards biologically, and it's one that will lead you to violence, it's a very bad situation.
Yeah, I do. I think attitude is the right word for it. It's just people have a certain kind of outlook on life, and I don't think you can change. I don't think people can change it. I mean, sure, look, I'm sure there's someone out there that has like a near death experience and come out of it with a completely different outlook, completely different sort of attitude towards life. I think that's super rare, though. I think most of the time people have a certain kind of predilection towards behavior, and that's fixed.
I don't mean, my outlook on life has changed substantially throughout my life. So I don't know if I agree from my own personal experience.
Well, look, but has it changed dramatically?
Yeah.
What was the change? Can you say, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, I used to be very like fine with lying and fine with like not really behaving in a specifically moral way.
Really?
Because I was very like, my cynicism, which hasn't gone away, my cynicism manifested in sort of like like everyone's kind of like, I wasn't like cruel, but I just had an attitude of like, oh, people are gonna do, like, everyone's gonna do fucked up shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it kind of gives you some leeway to also do fucked up shit. And I don't, and as I became, as my worldview changed, as my spiritual views changed, I kind of went in the complete opposite direction, and it was like, threw all that attitude away completely.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I was saying from my own personal experience, my outlook on life has changed dramatically. And that is relevant to sort of a religious idea. So, you maybe could put that in the more extreme camps, but.
Was this just part of your growing up, part of your socialization process? Because I do know, obviously, kids lie and learn that lying is not necessarily the best course of action. That's part of socialization.
I mean, literally the only reason I stopped lying and becoming more moral is because of my religious beliefs. It has nothing to do with any socialization of people teaching me anything.
Yeah, but the religious beliefs are part of your socialization. Are you saying like it was after you were an adult?
I mean, I was probably like around high school age.
Yeah, look. Yeah. This doesn't seem abnormal. I'm just
saying my outlook on life has changed dramatically from when I was a kid to now as an adult.
Kids are very cruel. They're
sure.
Kids start off very, very cruel, and they're slowly taught that, you don't want people to be cruel to you, so you shouldn't be cruel to other people. You start empathizing more with other people. You start getting your theory of mind expanding. You start having experiences where you are hurt and you feel, oh, I did that to somebody else. They must feel the same way as me. So I do think you can change. But like if you have the attitude that just, a dour attitude or a violent attitude or a gore, you're obsessed with gory things attitude, I think that's not going to change.
Sure. But obviously it can these things can manifest in specific ways. And I think you have to have kind of like the unlucky convergence of these things hitting a specific way to become like the psychopath, the violent psychopath or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, I don't know. I think we disagree in terms of the number. I think there are violent psychopaths. I just don't think there are that many in terms of like when we look at like people committing crimes, obviously they're going to be overrepresented in jail. But I don't think the majority of people that are causing problems in society are violent psychopaths. I think that's just a subset of that group. So
right. They say about 5% of the population is a psychopath.
Right.
But, if they can stay within the laws, then they're not going to end up incarcerated. But a lot of people that do end up incarcerated are violent psychopaths.
Sure. But like a lot more than 5% of the population is doing a lot of fucked up shit in the world, right? So.
Right. Yeah. But they do it for other reasons, obviously.
Yeah.
People do it a lot over, status disagreements, reproductive disagreements.
Sure.
Right.
Right. Caleb for 4 months says Vowsh ignores the new light shit on the quote out of context clips because the folder leak addresses the clips as if he didn't download Lolly. Okay.
So he doesn't even mention that in his hour and 40-minute video?
That's pretty funny if that's the case. Grendel Vivat for $50. Thank you, Grendel, so much. Says, unfortunately, the First Amendment issue keeping lolly stuff from being banned as obscenity. That's the quote I know when I see a part, as opposed to pornography. My first super chat praised Adam for standing up to Mr. Girl, so don't go accusing me. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming this, I haven't looked into it, but I'm assuming there's the same legal protections for this stuff exist. So it is curious how all this, not really super related to the lolly, but I'm curious how like as AI art becomes better, as deepfake technology becomes better, if they're, are they going to start passing laws when people, can create basically fake porn very easily of any real person?
Yes. They are.
Is that going to be illegal, or is it only going to be illegal if you try to pass it off as real?
Well, there's got to be laws on the books about celebrities owning their likeness, right? You can't
I don't know. Yeah, but that's only for sale. You can draw a picture of celebrity and not sell it, and that's fine.
Yeah, I think that's going to change. I think the technology is going to change. I think people will have more control over their likeness, more legal control over their likeness. Look, I think there should be digital property rights. I don't think you should be allowed to, I don't think these platforms should create a situation where you can spend hours and hours and hours of your life building a business on a platform and they just take it away from you. So I think a lot of the things in the digital realm need to change.
I think my guess would be that in Europe, they'll pass some law kind of like what you're describing, and we're going to see what the effect is. I don't think in America that they might eventually, but America is definitely going to be one of the last countries to pass a law like that, because it would be so outside the bounds of our current view of art and likeness for the legislation, for a law like that in America to be passed, where we basically say that you have control over your complete life, because we don't have it already. Like if you're walking around in public, someone could take a picture of you if you're in public. Someone could draw a picture of you. You don't own, we don't currently in America, you don't own your likeness unless it has something to do with you trying to make money off of it.
Yeah, but they would pair it with obscenity laws, where you can't use someone's likeness in an obscene way. It would be the same as like defamation.
Is that true?
No, look, I'm talking about changing the law, whatever it is.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, okay. Maybe
you should not be able. Look, and there was a girl recently. Evidently, they faked some porn of her, and she ended up killing herself.
Sure, I understand.
Yeah.
I
Look, you
actually,
you should have some control over your likeness. People should not be able to harass you like this.
no, you could be correct. I'm just talking about in terms of I don't know how I feel about it. I might agree.
I know
Um,
exactly how I feel about
yeah,
it.
I know
I
you
think
do.
fuck those people.
But
You put them up against the wall and shoot
well,
them.
actually, what might happen, maybe the workaround would be that it's not illegal to produce those images. It'd be illegal to produce those images and then distribute them, regardless of whether you make money off it or not. So it'd be like putting the image on the website would be the issue, not making the image itself. That they could possibly go that route. That might make more sense
Sure. Yeah. I
because then it would
understand what
be
you're
more
saying.
like the defamation obscenity route, possibly.
I mean, and it would be difficult for artists. Like if you're if you're doing a show and you want to do like nudes you want to do obscene images of so and so. I mean, look, we already have laws that differentiate celebrities from non-celebrities, right?
Right.
So, I mean, that could also play into it. Like,
Well, but right,
if
but
you're a
that's going to
celebrity,
be
you have less, you know, you have less legal rights.
right. Yeah, obviously, because you're a public figure, right? But like, so what if? I mean, that's going to be a case. Like, if something like this arose, some law like this arose, they'd have some case where some artist is going to want to use deepfake technology for a quote artistic purpose to like create Beyonce having sex with a velociraptor or something. I don't know, something fucking weird. And then
Right.
you're like, oh, there's some artistic reason to do this, right? And that's going to be some big court case, you know, the Beyonce velociraptor, court case.
I mean, we have
So
all sorts of copyright laws around this. Like,
yeah, but I'm saying like you could draw as an artist, you can draw a picture of that and you're totally protected.
yeah, but as soon as you take a photo of the picture and want to share it on your social media, you're not protected.
No,
So
you
that
are. If you're an
look, you
artist,
are now, but
that's what I'm
by
saying.
you said the rule would be you can't publish it, you can't
Right, I'm
share
saying
it.
I'm saying theoretical.
Potentially, yes,
Theoretical.
exactly. Well, that's a good way to go about it because then what is the purpose of even making the thing if you can't publicize it, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So you'd have some artist has this like weird, like an artist could draw Beyonce having sex with a velociraptor, post it on Twitter. Beyonce can't do anything, right? This could be the most popular image in the world, and I don't think Beyonce could do shit about it. So the question is, okay, so if you do the same thing, but you use AI to make it so it looks super real, does that change the legal question? As long as everyone knows it's not real.
Yeah. Look,
I don't know the answer to that question.
everybody is they're gonna basically pick it apart. How you can't do it. This is totally impossible. But look, this is where it is socially constructed. The laws that we have are literally the social construction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not super familiar with the laws around using someone else's likeness, but you can't use someone's likeness and do some sort of celebrity endorsement. You can't pretend like this, Scarlett Johansson endorses my
Right, but that's all for money reasons, right?
Yeah, but this is art is for money too also.
Well, but it's a little different. Like so, like with the bizarre hypothetical I said, the person could say, "Well, it's parody, right? That's what protects it, even if they sell it." So
Right. Well, look, defamation could play into this. Obviously, if you're defaming a person by depicting them in a pornographic movie that they would never be in, how is that not defamation?
yeah, but is it defamation if everyone knows it's not real or true?
But the thing is, a certain number of people won't know that it's not true. That's where it becomes defamation, even though it is not true.
Yeah, but like, okay, so if someone right now dressed up as Scarlett Johansson and looked kind of similar to her, and like she shot some porn or something,
Look,
and
this is so I don't
like could I don't think Scarlett Johansson could sue and be like, oh, she looks too much like me, even though she's not me, right? And it says in the video it's not
yeah,
me.
but if it is a deep fake that looks exactly like her, then she
Right.
would be able to sue, and then you could set that in front of a jury.
I don't know,
and you
we'll
could
see.
say, look, it looks exactly like her. Look, that's a fact claim that you could easily do in a jury.
Mhm.
I first of all, I can't stand this sort of argument Like, this can't possibly be done, so we should do nothing about it. Because this is a huge problem for people in society and will continue to be a huge problem for people in society. Fucked up people are going to use this technology to fuck with people.
Right.
And the reason why we make all laws is so other people don't fuck with other people. So something has to happen. Right?
We'll see. I don't know. Because I mean it's gonna become more and more crazy.
You're like,
I don't know.
You're like, no, people just should be able to fuck with other people.
We live in that society, Adam. This is America. We're very pervasive about what limits, we allow people to fuck with other people.
Within limits, we are.
Yeah.
Yes. But you can't look, assault went from being, you had to punch someone in the face to like you can rest a hand on someone's arm and that's assault now.
Sure.
So look, laws change.
No, listen.
Things change. Now you can't lay your hand on someone's shoulder because that's fucking with them.
Sure. I'm just saying that I agree with you. This could change, and we could have laws that address all this stuff. But I could very well see an alternate pathway where nothing really changes, and it's like the Wild West. So, I mean, it's going to be like that for some time. I'm not as certain as you are, I guess, that these things are going to all be outlawed.
The problem is going to be, it's going to have to be some sort of like international law, because what happens is people are in other nations where the laws don't necessarily apply to them, and they're the ones that are fucking with people.
Well, no, I mean, it's not going to be international law. It would be by country or it's going to be by country, and it'd be like you couldn't look at, like someone could make it and look at it if they're not in that country, but you can't look at it or make it if you're in one of these countries, right?
What do you think it's morally acceptable for someone to make these pornographic movies of someone without their permission? Actually, let me change that. With their express denial that they want
of course
this.
not. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
so it is immoral.
Well, I would say it's immoral if you show it to someone else.
What is the point of even making? Okay. So
if
as long as it's in your
makes a
personal
video,
spank bank, it's okay.
Yeah, right. I would say, well, no one sees it. Who cares, right? It's not. I wouldn't say that's not immoral at that point. But if they distribute it, I'd say it's immoral.
Until it leaks and it can't be taken back. I mean,
then yeah, right.
Okay. Oh, it's crazy.
Because when you're talking about immoral, you're talking about like what is the harm being created. And someone just making it and watching it themselves, I'd say doesn't create harm. But if they leak it, then the person obviously going to find out about it. Then that's what creates the harm, right? So that's where the immoral action comes into play.
Of course, yeah.
Right. But doesn't necessarily mean it should be illegal.
So what? Well,
I wouldn't be surprised if
just on the legality thing. Look, you're talking about harm, and a lot of the things that are legal and harmful, the situation is you're opting into it voluntarily. This is something that's harmful and you're not opting into voluntarily. Is there another situation where something is legal and harmful and you're not opting in voluntarily?
You don't opt to have someone cheat on you.
But that's not illegal.
I know. Isn't that what you were asking me?
I'm asking you, are there things... Okay, so you're saying... Yeah,
you're saying what's a non-voluntary action that's harmful against you that's still legal, right? I thought that's what you were asking me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, cheating is one thing, but it's not. I mean, that's not going to... that's not going to change.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. So, like, I understand. I think it's a tricky question. I think it's trickier than you think it is. But
well, look. All I know is people constantly are like picking it apart. They're not really engaged in solving the problem. They're engaged in playing this game where this problem is unsolvable and we should never do anything about it. And that's the thing that bugs me.
Sure. Well,
yeah.
I think it's possible. I think it would be more likely. I think it's, as I said, I think it's possible that they would say it's legal to make this, but not to share it. And even then, I wouldn't be surprised if that's limited to only non-public figures, right? Like, I think public figures are going to be fucked. I think they're going to be able to make as much deepfake porn as celebrities and sell and, distribute as much as you want. And they won't be able to do anything about it. But I think
public figures have a larger hurdle in defamation cases. For that same
which
reason.
I've never agreed with any of that stuff.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting.
No, because I actually do agree with you. Actually, in terms of, I think that just because you're out in public, from my position, if I was king of America, I think just because you're out in public, that doesn't mean that you lose all rights to your privacy. And just because you're in a movie means that suddenly you lose rights to your privacy. Like, I think all that paparazzi shit should be illegal, honestly.
Oh, that's awesome. Lethal Strain says this perfectly. Revenge porn is illegal. So this should just be classified the same. That's an easy solution right there.
Well,
doesn't matter if it's
what
real
is
or fake.
I'm assuming though that I don't know what the statute is, but I'm assuming that revenge porn requires that the person is showing it with the intention of harming the person, right?
What? That's exactly what people are going to be doing with this. Okay,
no, they're just doing it because they're like, oh, I thought this person was hot, so I made porn of them to jack off to, and then I showed other people, right?
Right. Okay.
Because I would imagine.
Why do you have to use a specific person? Then why can't you just use an AI generated person?
Because they thought that person was hot. I don't know. I don't have to answer the question.
I mean, you're definitely targeting that person.
Well, okay, it's like
that. You're basically they aren't giving you consent to do this.
No, okay, but like, okay, so here, I don't know if this is true with all revenge porn, but here I just pulled up one. This is Virginia. It says it makes it a crime to maliciously disseminate or sell nude or sexual images of another person with the intent to coerce, harass, or intimidate. So that's like, so if that had an AI thing, obviously that would apply to this easily, right?
Sure.
But you still have to show that that's the intent, right? So I don't know. I'm saying I don't think it'd be so clear, but.
Here's the best chat. Watt and Tiger. It should be illegal to disagree with Sitch and Adam. Exactly.
That's true.
That's exactly right.
That's true. Okay. Anyways. Stug for $5. It's an interesting conversation. Man. We're going to have to deal with this.
This is not interesting.
I think it's a very interesting conversation. We're going to have to deal with it in the next 10 years.
We need harsh punishments.
Okay.
We need some hanging in the streets, and then people will just not do it.
There you go. I agree. Stug for $5. Thank you. Says, I guess it's a bit late to start calling Vowsh and Keffels the Lollipop Guild, huh? That's pretty good. I like it.
It's never too late.
Never too late. There you go. Stug for $5 says, oh, also, this seems relevant. The Keffels reaction in Vowsh Meltdown 2 is 100% pro-felicity. So tell me how pro-felicity is not a problem again. Oh, that's a good point. That is a good point.
I don't know how you're saying pro-felicity is a problem. It is pro-felicity, but.
Well, I guess in terms of people like obsessed with pro-felicity.
Well, look, she's only got, if Vowsh had 10 subscribers, Keffels is not going to go out and die on Lollipop Hill. She's not going to die. She's only dying on Lollipop Hill because this guy is a big streamer that she perceives as someone who can help her career.
Right.
Yeah.
Filthy Casual for $2 says, Jank and Vowsh need a podcast called Horsing Around.
Oh my God, no.
That's pretty good.
Oh no.
Carol Man 502 for $5 says, the only person with a crystal ball is Kyle Kalinske, but he spells it differently. Waka waka. S classy is the best class. Well, thank you.
I like Crystal, so.
Jonathan Smith for $5 says, the difference between violence and other humans are humans are very adept at detecting what violence is and where it's directed in general survival. There you go.
Yeah, I agree.
JMac for $50. Thank you so much. Our surrogate father, JMac.
Woo!
Is the neurology at play when sexual attraction / gratification is happening is provably different than when enjoying simulated violence in media. There's a few papers on this that I remember looking through when I did a paper on this subject in college.
Yeah, that's my argument. That's my argument, Jay, right there. That's why I kept saying you're actually participating in the activity. You're doing the act.
Yeah, I understand what you mean by that, but you need to find a better way of saying that because a lot of people won't understand what you mean by that.
Right, because they're getting off on actually harming someone.
No, I'm just
because
no, because it's
degenerates.
Because it's like, well, what do you mean? Because you're not actually doing the act. You're just looking at an image, and in your mind, you're imagining you're having sex, right? But you're not actually having sex. right? So it's to be the same thing as like when you shooting someone in a video game, you're not actually shooting them. You're like doing an imaginary version of it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you need to find a better way of explaining the concept.
From your perspective, there ain't nothing imaginary. You go through all of the motions. Every single thing that would happen in the real life scenario happens in your personal scenario. The other partner
What are you
is just
talking
not
about?
there. With the porn thing.
No, you're not. No, wait. Okay, if you're sitting there looking at a still picture or a video and you're jacking it, okay, that's very different than like going out on the street and finding a person and assaulting them. Like that's what I'm saying. You need to find better language than saying like you're doing the same act, because you're not.
From you, look, from your perspective, you are. From their perspective, the person is not being harmed. I agree with you. I understand what you're saying.
Okay, I'm confused here,
but in the violent video game situation, from your perspective, as I said, you're not literally like disemboweling somebody with blood all over your hands, and look, it's a completely different experience.
Yeah, but you
aren't wiping up your blood on the hands after you.
I understand that, but
you're not the video game.
You're not doing this. You're not doing that when you're jacking it to porn either.
Oh my God, Sitch.
I don't understand what you're saying. Like, I'm so confused.
Sitch never ejaculates when he jacks off.
No, you're not supposed to. That's how. Wait, don't you know that you're like losing your energy if you do that? You're not supposed to. You're just supposed to hold it in.
This is something none of us ever wanted to know.
No, but there's a difference between like that and like, do you understand like doing that to another person and like hiding a body, right? That's like so different. That's why I'm saying I don't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Apparent.
Whatever.
It's apparent. I think the audience understands what I'm talking about.
I don't know.
I think it's pretty obvious.
Okay. Lethal Strain for $5 says, "Are you talking about the Slender Man killings?" No, that was a different case. But it was probably similar. I wouldn't be surprised. If I don't know if those kids were psychopaths, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were. We're talking about there's like a trans girl that was stabbed to death. So,
yes,
recently. Soldoge, Deep State Center for Excellence for $2 says, "I don't know. I'd give 2 years till Adam is Jack Thompson." There you go. We'll see.
I don't know who that is. So.
That's the guy who was like crusading to get all the violent video games like shut down or censored or something.
That's so. I mean, well, okay, whatever.
J-Mac, our circuit father for $50. Thank you so much, J-Mac. Look at that. Says, "My art when I was a kid was very gory. 6-year-old me loved drawing monsters and blood, etc. One of the few good things my mom did was not ostracize me and encourage me. Honestly, my artistic outlet was probably the only reason I didn't suffer behaviorally." Yeah, you have to be careful. Like a lot of kids, myself included too, when they're like younger, they have like a morbid fascination with monsters and violence of things of those nature. And it can be difficult to sort of like figure out like what is a normal kid liking something like that, and like when does it stray into the like, oh, this is like dangerous territory. So
Soladoge is on my suspected pedophile list.
No, stop. Know. Be nice to Soladoge. Okay.
Soladoge is a suspected pedophile.
No,
in our chat
stop.
now.
Stop.
He is.
No, stop.
If he can't tell the difference between the argument I'm making, he's totally sus.
A lot of people can't tell the argument. I think I understand what you're saying, but I just don't think you're not explaining it clearly. I think there's a different I think what J-Mac was saying, what I think is what you're saying. Wait. Let me say this. What I think I agree with what J-Mac said, which is that I would imagine, and I would imagine there's studies about this, that what's happening in your brain regarding you're a person consuming violent video game content or violent movie content is different than a person consuming and masturbating to some kind of sexual content, and that the different things are happening in their brain that aren't necessarily comparable.
Different things are happening in their body.
Yes, obviously, different things are happening in their body, right?
Yes. You're the only one edging out there, Sitch. Everyone else is jacking off. Everyone else is ejaculating.
Okay.
It's completely different.
Okay.
The thing that you keep saying is, look, it's completely different because there's not this other person that's involved. Yes, I understand that.
Right.
Yes, the other person is not there. The other person is like, thankfully, far away from you jacking it, right?
Yeah, right.
But from your perspective, the experience is far more similar from your personal experience than in the video game situation.
I don't know why. I don't know why it would be from the way that you're describing it.
You ejaculate. That's the difference.
Okay, so like if someone is sitting here in their chair and they're watching porn,
I cannot believe that this is going over your head, Sitch. This is like so.
This is going over
easy.
Everyone's head, Adam. That's why I'm saying you're not expressing yourself clearly.
No, it's going over your head. Look, there are plenty of people that understand it. J-Mac understands it. Look, there's someone here in the chat. Adam has never been more right.
Okay. I don't think you're addressing the argument that the people are making.
You're saying the difference is that the other person does not get semen all over them, and they're not.
That's not what I'm saying. Stop. No, the argument is this. Okay, Adam. If someone is sitting in a chair, okay, and they're holding a controller and they're disemboweling a person in a video game, okay, right. So they're engaged in a fantasy where they're disemboweling a person, right? And they're saying, well, just because you're engaged in a fantasy where you disembowel a person doesn't translate to you walking out there on the street and disemboweling a person, right? And then they're saying, okay.
But we could set up, so let's say the game is with a cadaver, okay? An anatomically correct cadaver where you're actually stabbing in and digging into their guts and disemboweling them.
Right.
That would be closer to the masturbation situation.
Why?
Because the experience that you are having is exactly the same as if you were doing it to a live person.
Well, not really. You can just stab someone and like stab them a bunch of times. You're not like digging through their guts or anything. Like from a visual aesthetic level.
Are we getting closer to you understanding the situation?
I don't.
Physical experience is closer to identical if you've literally got a cadaver and you're digging in and disemboweling the person than if you're in a video game doing that with a controller in your hand.
Okay. Whatever, let's move
on.
I don't think
you don't understand?
No, you're not you're not understanding what I'm saying. Okay.
What are you saying?
The subject.
What are you saying?
Okay. You could, first of all, I believe that there could be people in real life who have stabbed people to death that would still be disgusted at the idea of cutting open a cadaver and removing organs. Okay. Those could be two completely different processes. You've seen I've seen videos of stab prisons. The guy just comes up and just stabs someone like 50 times and walks away. Okay. They're not cutting through people's organs and pulling shit out. They're just fucking stabbing them a bunch of times and then running off. Okay. So I'm saying that you could do that in a video game, and you could even have the fantasy, of you doing that in the video game, and it's tied in with some sort of goal accomplishment. So you have some sort of positive feedback in your brain. Then you do the prison stabbing in the video game, and then the person is saying, okay, so how is that substantially different than you sitting there, jacking it to some fantasy of pornography? How does that translate to you going out there in the real world and then committing the fantasy act? That's what their argument is. They're saying, why, if you're not going to do it with violence, why would you do it with sex?
Look, if you don't understand it, it's over your head, man. You're not going to get it.
Okay.
You're basically saying the only difference is whether or not another person is involved, whether or not another person is harmed by the situation.
That's the argument for the violence in video games argument. Is like, is the fantasy going to make someone do something in the real world, right?
Let's move on.
Okay. Tommy Smithson for 100 Donkey Kong dollars. Thank you. Says you should watch Henry Rollins' documentary series on the Warrior generation. They found a lot of people with that generation type in prison, and a Dutch family had a variation, a family with 4 or 5 arsonists in it. Huh. A Warrior generation. It's interesting. Okay, I'll check that out. Solos for $5 says, we all know Adam wants to pass a law to stop Sammy from giving us the dojins. There you go. That's the truth thing. That's the true thing. We have to prevent Sammy from drawing the degenerate Sitch and Adam Dojins. JMac for $100. Thank you so much. Our surrogate father, JMac, says my 6-year-old daughter was watching anime with my wife, and I had a particularly scary part coming up. I talked to her to make sure she was okay to watch it, and she responded with, quote, "It's not even real, it's just a cartoon, dude. With each kid, handle will vary." That is true. That is true. Leith, I read that one. Sotos for 2 hours says, so glad all this discussion on promoting CP 2024.
Yeah, go. Look, I don't even want to have this conversation. It's such a basic thing. And you're like, no. You want to keep digging deeper, man. If you can't figure it out, that's fine. Look.
I told you, and anyone can play this back, 30 minutes ago to move on.
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay.
Don't get mad at me. Chat. I blame JMac. JMac okay. Super Chat brought it up.
Ocracy for $10 says, Adam, the post-liberals are authoritarians and just want to push their beliefs. Also, you want to draw smut. Imprison people that draw smut I don't like. Sitch is right. Liberal government allows it, but culture shouldn't allow it. I mean, I think that's the method, the route we'd have to go. So, Val Van Gogh for $20 says, violence in video games is a means to an end. Sex in video games would be the end. I think that is the difference Adam is trying to express. Well, I think that and I think we said that. I think that is a difference, I guess, that we're trying to get at. Though people could potentially, I agree with you. And I would think that'd be healthier in terms of violence in video games. So I'm imagining that there are people that definitely play video games because the violence itself is an attraction. I do remember that when I was younger, like when violence in video games was more talked about, violence in video games was definitely the attraction for kids. But it's more just, it felt more like it was like, oh, it's cool because your parents don't want you to do it. So
look, I shouldn't blame JMac because JMac was actually trying to back me up, but
that's true.
Yeah. JMac made it so simple.
Dr. Diller for $2 says the latest Lol Cow Live podcast had a segment devoted to making fun of Hassan and Vowsh. It's funny and encouraging to hear relative normies like Wings and Boogie making fun of 2/3 of the socialist triumvirate. That is pretty good if that's going on. I didn't hear that. Dr. Diller for $2 says, I think this hurts Vowsh because he crossed into the territory where it becomes fun to dunk on him, like New Coke. His audience is stupid and loyal, but if it becomes a joke to be a Vowsh fan, they'll abandon en masse. That's interesting. I agree with that. There is a lot of profilicity in these environments, and if Vowsh, if his own fans, if his audience sees him as like liking him, gives you a negative social status, then I agree. I'm not sure that will happen, though. I'm not sure that will happen, but we'll see. And I agree with you. Making it fun to dunk on him I think that's only because so many people hate him already. So, Dr. Liv for now $2 says, my personal guess is that AI deepfakes will be the Wild West until some anonymous source or grassroots political group, a la Project Veritas, tries to float a completely fake encounter with a politician. Then the hammer comes. Now that is a good prediction. People in Washington are always very, very quick to move as soon as it affects them. So that is a very good prediction. Sulla for $5 says, under federal law, drawings are illegal only if they are graphic. There's no serious attempt at story or art. Are there any drawings that are illegal whatsoever? I didn't even know there were drawings that could be illegal, but interesting. There you go. And listen, Adam,
I'm just reading the chat. So
it is true that I always come to completion when I play Tetris. That game is very sexy. Okay,
it's so simple.
It's a very sexy, simple game. When you line up those lines, Sitch really just excites me.
Sitch thinks pressing controller buttons is the same as ejaculating.
There you go. That's exactly the words that I said. Anyway, I guess that will end the stream on that note. Thank you. So see you all tomorrow.
I'm not being fair. Sitch does know the difference between ejaculating.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not a big enough difference, but whatever.
There you go.
Anyway. All right. What's our new and exciting outro for the show?
See, the same kablam time, the same kablam place where we will not talk about masturbation tomorrow.
None of this stuff.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.